Dad, you made it just in time. First one here. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late because whenever I try to go on live and change the picture, it automatically goes live but doesn't show me any controls, and then I gotta leave and come back in, and it's just really weird. But welcome. You guys are coming in here really quick. So I have, first of all, my name is Kim. I teach upholstery workshops here in Ann Arbor, Michigan at my local makerspace, MakerWorks. I had my own furniture fabrication business for the better part of a decade, and I reupholstered furniture, restored furniture. My husband did metalwork and woodwork, and we closed our business a couple of years ago because we couldn't sustain the demand. We were just two people working 7 days a week, 15-hour days, and we just couldn't do it anymore. So after we closed our business, I decided that I wanted to teach as many people how to do upholstery as possible with whatever time I had left to do it. So, on top of my full-time marketing consulting gig, I do upholstery workshops here at MakerWorks 4 days a week on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. That makes it convenient for students to do 4 consecutive classes in a row to work on their projects, but it's also really great for if you're coming in from out of town, you can stay the whole weekend, and it's a lot of fun. This is a project left over from those days. So this was a project we took on from our friends when we were still in business. When we closed our business, we offered to give it back and give them their money, and they decided that they could wait as long as we needed to wait to be able to finish it, because it was important for them that we finished it. And we've done several projects for them in the past. So this has been in production for the better part of 3 years, and today I'm hoping to finish it. So we've been going live the past few weeks. You'll see me go live on Tuesdays, usually from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sometimes I don't get until 11 a.m. Today I was waiting for my phone to charge because I forgot to charge it last night, so I had to go on a little bit late. But I want to take the time on Tuesdays to give you guys tutorials on how I do upholstery on the projects that I'm currently working on. So we just finished my palette cleanser project, which was the peony chairs, and we still have more of those. Oh, you can't see them. It's hiding. We still have more of those to do, but we have to finish this project. So palette cleanser is over. I have some confidence now. You guys have really boosted me up, and I think I can really finish this project. So this is what it looked like before, and this is what we have to get it back to. So I have almost all the moving parts completely upholstered now. You can see those here behind me. I still have to do the foot stool, but I'm waiting to do that because I have to put this thing back together before I go too much further. I still have a couple of pieces of fabric and batting to put on the base here, and then for the rest of this class, or whatever, however long you guys are hanging out with me, we're going to go through the parts of this chair and see if we can't piece it back together again. Now, I've done recliners before. I have a familiarity with how to put them back together, but this particular recliner, I let some of my students take apart and strip down for me in order for them to exchange for free classes. And unfortunately, they took everything apart, parts that weren't even that necessary to take apart. So I have to figure out what everything is that they've took apart, piece it back together, and have my memory of how recliners are supposed to work and go back together. And I'm really nervous about that. And so I thought maybe I would just do it live on the internet. And if any of you happen to be experts in that area, you can help me through areas that I might get stuck on. So I'm here to show you what it is I'm here to do today. And I'm going to first be putting some fabric and batting on the base to get that finished up. And I'll show you around the other parts too, so that you can see what it is we're trying to put together today. And then we're going to start assembling this chair again. But like I said in my promo, your guess is as good as mine. I don't have the photos to back this up. I know that they've been sent to me, but I haven't been able to locate them. So this is why it's extremely important for you to take lots of pictures and video throughout the process of you doing your project. So if you've never done this before, step 1, take pictures, take video, do it from the front, the sides, the back, every little intricacy that you're just like, how do I put that together? If you don't get it, take a picture of it, because you're going to want to refer back to that later on. And if you don't have it, you might get as stuck as I am right now. So the first thing we're going to do is finish up this base, because that's going to help build my confidence, because it's something that I do know how to do, and I can show you guys a little bit of upholstery before we get into the really hard stuff. If you have questions along the way, whether it be what I'm working on or your own personal questions about upholstery or anything it is that I do, feel free to put them in the comments. I am not looking at the screen the whole entire time. I'm going to be flapping my jaw the whole entire time about what it is that I'm doing. So put them in the comments, and I stop from time to time and I go back and I try to answer as many questions as possible. So if you can get those in there, I will try to read them off to make sure that they get answered for you. All I ask when you're here getting a free upholstery lesson is that you tap the screen as much as possible whenever I try to remind you to do it. You don't have to do it 100% of the time. You don't have to stay the whole time tapping the screen, but if I bring it up, if you could take a minute to just tap the screen as violently as possible so that that little meter shows up in the left-hand corner. It's a little heart meter, and it races its way to the end the more you tap on the screen. Just tap it until it throws you a party. When it reaches the end, there's fireworks and all kinds of fun stuff. Tap it till it throws you a party. When you guys do that, it sends my content out to the For You page. People find me, they sign up for my classes, and that's how I run my business. So that allows me to be able to do this for you for free on Tuesdays, and all I ask is that you tap that screen. I did notice we got a lot of gifts last time. I'm not accustomed to that. I always tell my anyone who's watching that you're tapping the likes are much more valuable to me than buying me gifts, because I get fractions of pennies of those gifts. That being said, we did make $4 on the last live, and I don't know if you know how many people have to donate to be able to make $4, but I do appreciate anyone who does that. But please know, you don't have to spend any money on this in order to get anything to me. What I need you to do is get my face out there for everybody else so that they can find me and come take classes. I teach in-person workshops here at a local makerspace, but I also do live virtual upholstery workshops. What that means is I don't do pre-recorded tutorials. I don't have the time to edit those together, but I do 3-hour classes where you can join me and up to 5 other people with your project from home or wherever you want to be, and I'll walk you through the steps to completing it. We'll start from the top and we'll work our way through. You don't have to have any experience to do that. You don't have to have it at a certain stage to do that, and you don't have to continually go to every class every week. You get to come and do it at your own pace with your own comfort level. And if you sign up for that and use the code FIRSTCLASS at checkout, you'll actually get your $75 class discounted down to $1. So you can take your first virtual upholstery class with me for $1 to figure out if it's even a format that you think you can learn in. A lot of people can't learn through the screen. A lot of people find it difficult to follow online tutorials. Here, I'm live with you in person, demonstrating the skills that I am trying to show you, like in real time, how to do on your own project. So if that's something that interests you, go on over to the link in my bio and you can sign up for virtual upholstery classes or in-person upholstery classes. And I even have some weekend upholstery camps coming up, and I'll go into that, while we're working today, but I want to get going. Good morning, Best Mama. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We had a lot of people join right away, so I apologize for being a little bit late. Hi Sandy, thank you for the love. I'm going to take you guys over to the chair now, and that we're going to get going on the fabric for the sides. We just have a couple of sides to finish up here. So I'm going to grab this and flip the camera around. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is kind of go over the different pieces that we have here. So on this side, these are the pieces that we've done in the past lives. This is the seat back of the recliner. So the cool thing about upholstering recliners is that they come apart in a bunch of different pieces and you upholster them separately. That makes it so much easier to upholster them. The crappy part about it is that you have to reassemble it after that. If you don't remember how you took it apart or you didn't document it properly, putting it back together becomes a headache. It's also sometimes a headache if you don't put the right size materials on it, because it might fit in the frame different than it did when it was upholstered before, and you might have difficulties fitting it back together. So those are some of the struggles that we 99% will struggle with today while you're here live. So we already did the back, we did the wings for the arms, those came apart too. And then we did this seat here, right there. And then over here on this table are the remaining pieces. Let me give you a scan first. So we have the chair base, that's the final base. You'll see some random parts floating around that I am as curious about as you are. I have the arms here that the armrest upholstered part have to get put on, and then they get put on the chair. And then we still have the footrest that has to come out too. And I wanted to wait until the rest of the base was assembled so I could see how much foam I needed to put on that to make it look the way it's supposed to. So the other part is this fun box of mystery fasteners. So that is the box that the students collected all the fasteners in, and those are the pieces that I have to figure out how to put back together again. But we're gonna do some easy stuff first so that I can feel better about myself. So let me flip this back around. I am tethered to a charger here today too, so bear with me. I just got to get this so that I can see you. Okay, this is the chair base. This is the chair base. You can see all of the metal mechanisms inside that are here to allow the recliner to recline. I have some pieces here. This is really exciting because I have a random piece. Let me pull it out and see. I have this random piece that was near the box of stuff that I put this back together that I thought was a part of this chair, but it doesn't appear to actually be a part of this chair because these pieces look like they're complete. This was the bane of my existence. This here was what made me want to cry about this piece because I was like, this isn't anywhere else on the chair. It looks like these mechanisms, so I assumed that there would be two of them, so I thought when I brought it back to the chair, the other one might still be there, and then I would be able to put it in the same place, but there is no other piece like this. But it was on the floor near the box, but I'm not 100% sure what it goes to, so we're going to hold on to it just in case we need it. The mechanisms work really well. They've been unscrewed from the inside here, and the seat box that we've already upholstered goes inside here. But before we put anything back together, I have to finish upholstering this. Last year I went to a maker's exposition at the library, and I brought this project to upholster at the exposition to show kids like how easy it is to upholster, and then we let kids help us do it. So I've already covered the outside with batting and everything that it needs on both sides. I just need to cover the inside now. I didn't have any burlap on me when I was at the library, so I just used a piece of the actual fabric as the barrier fabric on the inside. So I'm going to do the same thing here because I'm aiming for symmetry and I don't want to use a different material here than I did on this side. So you guys are going to see me put a piece of show fabric on here as a barrier fabric, and then we're going to be putting batting and fabric over top of those. So don't get confused. If you hang out with me the whole time, you'll know exactly what I'm doing, but ask questions if you don't understand what I'm doing, and I'm happy to explain them when I get back to the screen to see that. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy that you're here. I want to teach you upholstery because there's a huge demand for upholstery in the United States, and there are not very many formal ways to educate yourself on it, and not very many opportunities for apprenticeship or anything like that. So if you want to learn and you like the DIY thing, I teach in a DIY approach. I did this professionally for 6 years out of my own brick and mortar, and I designed my own furniture, restored my own furniture. I'm happy to show you everything that I learned in the way that I learned it, in the with the language that was easier for me to learn it. When I first started learning this, there weren't tutorials really online for upholstery, but you could watch videos of it. So I taught myself how to do upholstery through reverse engineering and watching people do it over and over and over again, and getting my hands in it. A lot of people ask, how do I get started with an upholstery project? And the first thing you do is tear it apart. Even if it never makes it past that stage, you have to tear it apart so you can understand how the pieces are assembled on the furniture, and understand how the furniture has to be created to to even be able to accept fabric and foam and material. So you learn a lot in that deconstruction phase, and I always suggest that you document every single stage of it, because you may need to go back and be like, how was this put together again? And you're going to need to look at those pictures of video. So unfortunately I don't have any of this, so I'm on my own. I'm going to measure this inside panel so that I can cut some fabric for it. It's going to be the same size as this one, and I need to cut 3 pieces of material that are going to be the same size to put over here. First, we're going to put the barrier fabric, then we're going to put the batting on, and then we're going to put the show fabric on top. This does not need foam on it, because this is, one, not a comfort piece of the chair. It encases all of the upholstered parts that have foam underneath it. So this is just a frame, and it holds the arms, and for the most part the seat, everything rises above it. So it's not meant to be a comfort level. You do not have to waste your material on this area. You can just put fabric and batting on it to make it look soft and plush. Don't put foam on it, because you're going to have difficulty putting the base back inside of it if you add material to it that's not supposed to be there. So these chairs are engineered in a specific way to be able to recline, and if you're adding too much extra material to it, you're going to affect the mechanisms that allow it to be able to do that. So make sure that you're trying to pay close attention to how thick the material is, taking it off, and follow that guideline, putting it back on. A lot of pieces of furniture can be reupholstered any way that you want. Recliners, not so much. Some parts of them can, but like when it comes to the mechanisms, they all have to be put back together the same way. So let me see if I can get this back in. I don't have the handle. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that without the handle, and I can do it in my toolbox. So we're just going to leave that for now. And then we're going to measure this area for fabric. Whoa. I'm stuck in a hose. I don't want to get too deep into the woods into it right now, because we've already done this on this live where we go over how to measure your piece of furniture for how much fabric you're going to need. But I will briefly explain that fabric is 54 inches wide typically off the bolt. And so you have the 54-inch width to work with, and then however many yards you need. When I tell students when they measure their furniture, I tell them don't consider the width, because you're going to need that extra fabric for when you make mistakes. And all you have to do is measure the lengths of all the panels that you need. This piece of furniture has several panels. We don't need to go through that right now because we've already been through it with this project. But for this particular piece, I need 3 panels that are the same size of this. So the way I need to measure that is from the tallest point, which is up here, all the way down to the bottom. It's going to staple up here to the top. It's going to wrap down here, and then it's going to attach. How do I get it attached? Actually, this one just attaches straight across right here. So it needs to be long enough to start here, come down here, and attach right here at the bottom. It also needs to be wide enough to start, how do I get it here? This area gets covered up and it wraps this way, then it goes across and then wraps around to the back. So it needs to be wide enough to do that at its widest point, which is right about here. It starts to get narrower here at the bottom, so I want to make sure that I measure it at its widest point. So I'm going to do that now, and then this is, I'm going to need times 3 that many pieces in order to be able to cover this chair the way that I need to. So what's important to know is that if you measure this piece exactly as big as it needs to be, you're going to have a difficult time holding on to it in order to put it on the project. So I always have to add 2 inches to each side in order to hold on to it. I had carpal tunnel, so it is really difficult for me to pinch, so I kind of have to hold my material like this. And for me, I need at least 2 inches of material to be able to get my hands on it. So I add 2 inches to each side to make sure I have enough material to be able to put this on properly. So up here I start at the 2-inch mark, and I'm even going to go down diagonal like this because it's a longer distance than if I were to go down straight, and I want to make sure that I have enough material. So we are aiming for extra material here. And then I'm just measuring down to this point here. I have 17 inches and add 2 inches on this side, then it's 19 inches. So I need 19 inches tall. And then I'm going to measure the width here. Start at 2 inches on this side at the widest point. It also comes in here and it goes across the inside this way. So 27 plus 2 more inches, 29 inches. So 29, what was this again? By 19. 29 by 19 inches. What's also important to know is that the pattern on this particular chair, I don't know if you can see here, I've been using this light blue line as a reference. The light blue line needs to go straight up and down. So you need to know which measurement is which. So I have the 19 inches tall and the 29 inches wide is what I'm looking to do on the fabric. So I'm going to take you over the cutting table and we're going to start cutting that. Experts are going to tell you not to use Sharpies to mark your fabric because it's permanent and you can ruin your fabric. I'm using a Sharpie because it makes it easier, 1, for me to see, I'm going blind, and 2, for you to see through the camera. I don't know if you'll be able to see it though because this fabric is so busy. I got to get this stuff out of the way because I want this whole area to be clean before I spread my fabric out on it, and to make sure my fabric can really stretch out and get like spread out evenly and is nice and flat on the table before I make any measurements. Do not take the fabric to the project, drape it over, start stapling and cut it loose. If you want to get good at conserving materials and saving yourself money, you're going to have to get used to plotting out your measurements on your fabric before you take it to the project. If you don't do that, you're going to burn so much money in materials by just draping it over. Draping it over is an effective way to do it, but you're going to be using material that you don't need in order to meet your comfort level on that. So I suggest that you just buckle down and learn how to measure properly and measure, plot, and cut before you apply it to the project. So I just gotta get all this stuff out of the way. This is the base. These 2 pieces are the arms, and then these pieces here are the armrests that go on here somehow, and we'll refer back to the picture before we start putting that back together. But these are pieces that are ready to be assembled. We have our box of mystery fasteners. I'm very fortunate that my students labeled all of these handmade envelopes. So hopefully I'll be able to translate what it is that they mean by this when I'm going to be putting it back on the project. And then we have the footrest. This is easy enough to assemble, but I'm waiting to do it because I know that the padded area of this needs to be flush with the front when I put it together, and I'm not 100% what that looks like yet because I didn't take this apart. So I want to get everything assembled to push this in place so I know how much material to put on it to make sure that it is going to set flush in the chair. So I have several offcuts of this material that I think are going to be useful for this. So I'm not going to bother taking any off the bolt. In fact, I'm going to get that out of my way. I'm not going to bother taking any off the bolt because I think that this piece right here is going to be big enough for at least 2 parts of the arms that we need. So I have my blue lines going straight up and down. That tells me that this is the top and this is the bottom, or even this can be the top and this can be the bottom. This isn't velvet, it's a basket weave, so there's no nap. Top, bottom, and then side to side, because that's how I've applied it to the rest of my chair. So I need a piece that is 19 by 29 inches. This is 19, I think that's almost the halfway point. And this is 33 inches. So because this is so close to the measurements I need, I'm just going to split it in half. And it's just going to be a little bit bigger than I need. But the material that I would cut off of this is going to be like so small I won't be able to use it. So I'm wasting less time by doing this than I am plotting out my measurements, because I know I need a rectangle that's at least 19 by 29, and this is just slightly bigger than I need it. So I'm going to go ahead and use up all this material and just cut off the excess after I apply it, so I save myself a step. I try not to have this around my neck when I'm cutting because I've cut through them before. So I'm just going to cut right up this fold, and then we're going to take it, ooh, I almost cut it in the wrong direction. I need to fold it top to bottom in half, because I need my wide part to be 29 inches and my tall part to be at least 19. So I'm just going to run up the fold. There's also a straight line in the basket weave here that I'm following to make sure that the pattern stays straight. That's the cool thing about geometrical patterns in fabric, is that it makes it really easy to plot out your measurements and to make sure that you can keep it straight when you apply it to your project. Okay, these two pieces should be big enough, and now I need one more piece because I need 3 at the same size. That's what this is going to be for. This is the remainder of the fabric. The only fabric that I need for the rest of this project are these arm pieces, the back piece that covers the whole entire back, and the fabric that's going to cover the footstool. So I actually have a lot of excess fabric here that I'm hoping to be able to use on other projects, because this is a really great, bright, colorful fabric that has a mid-century vibe, but is definitely breaks a lot of rules of mid-century style because it's loud, just how I like it. So this particular piece I believe is 54 inches wide, but we're going to give her a measure because we want to be thoughtful and considerate of how to fit the next part of our pattern on here. And my guess is we're just going to take it 19 inches down so that we use less material. I'm not going to guess if that's what we're going to do. We don't even need to measure the width. So I'm going to use my T-square. That Sharpie already. So I'm going to use my T-square to get myself a nice square measurement so that I can make sure that it goes on my chair properly. It's okay if it's not perfect, if it's just a little bit skewed at this point, because you're going to be cutting off all the excess. But if you get used to measuring your patterns in a square manner, it's going to fit your project better, and you're going to get better at upholstery for it. So this is the math they told you were going to need after high school. So this is a squared off edge because I've been using this a lot. I can see the pattern has been cut along one straight line, so I know it's square. So I'm just going to use my T-square to measure 19 inches down. On this particular ruler, on one side it starts at a 1, and on the other side it starts at a 48. So if you have one like that, you're going to want to be mindful of which side you start your measurement at. Here I'm going to make sure I start at 1. I'm going to go down 19 inches, and I'm actually going to take it to the nearest line so that I can make sure I just cut it across on that line. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Making sure that it's still lined up with that line to make sure that it's accurate to begin with. And then I'm just going to connect these dots with my T-square here. And it does follow the same color line, so I know that this pattern is helping me keep my measurements square. And I'm just going to continue that straight line by keeping my ruler lined up with the line I just made and taking it off to the other side. I'm cutting this whole width off because I believe that there's a pillow or something I can make with this small material, but it's so small that I might not be able to put it on anything else. So I'm going to trim it off of here so that it is not going to mess up the next time I have to come at this piece of fabric. this off the floor. And now I just need 29 inches across, and this is 54 inches wide. I can't consider the salvage edge. Let's go. I can't consider the salvage edge because that's not usable to me. So I'm measuring from the salvage edge 29 inches across the top. And then I'm going to do 29 inches across the bottom from the salvage edge. Make sure it lines up in the same color line. And then connect those two dots. Now the best way to tell if your pattern is square or not before you cut it out, and of course you've marked yours on the back of your fabric because marking on the top is dumb. What you can do is measure it from corner to corner, and if the measurement is the same from corner to corner, then your piece is square. If it's not, then your piece is actually a polygon and it's slanted. For this purpose, it doesn't really matter, but I do want you guys to know what that looks like. So I'm going to measure from corner to corner. I've got 35 inches exactly. And I'll do the same thing here. 35 inches exactly. It's perfect. But the pattern on the fabric helps me a lot with that. We've got all three pieces that we need to put on the chair now, but we still need to cut out batting. I'm going to take a second before I do that to go back through the comments to see if there's any questions. If you guys could, at this time, while I'm answering questions and teaching you, tap the screen as violently as possible until that little meter shows up in the upper left-hand corner. It's a cute little heart. When it reaches the end of it, it's going to throw you a party. It's fun for everybody. It really helps me sell classes and get my content out on the For You page. So that's the best way you guys can help me here. You don't have to buy gifts or send TikTok money. You can just tap the like button, and that does a lot for me. So I'm going to come up there and I'm going to answer some questions. All right, let me go back up through. I don't know how far to go back, you guys, and I don't want to take too much time doing this because I know you came to watch, but I also want to make sure that I pay enough attention to the questions you ask, because that is also why I'm here, is to answer any of your questions. Oh, there's not too far to go. Good. Miracle of the Blizzard. Oh, Deb was able to join us because she has a blizzard. That sounds fun. Hope the weather isn't too dangerous out there, Deb. Let's see. Thank you, everyone who is joining me. I really appreciate your participation here. Thank you so much, Tarina, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. When you guys are engaging in here, that's like the best form of spreading my content out there and helping me to grow my business. And my business is teaching people how to do upholstery. I want to teach people how to do upholstery because if I were able to hire someone to help me when I was in business, I may have never had to close my business to begin with. So I want as many people to learn upholstery as possible, whether you're doing it for yourself or for a hobby, or you want to learn how to make a little bit of extra money. There's a lot you can learn from me doing that. I have a private group on Facebook called the Local Upholstery Club. If you're interested in learning, it's a really great supplemental tool for you because we have a lot of experts in there, we have a lot of learners in there, and everybody is really supportive of your journey and however it is you get here. So nobody is critical of you, no one is judging you on how you choose to approach your learning to a project, and everyone is there to support you. So it's a really great place for you to go if you're looking to be supported in your journey and learning something new and helping you to build confidence and elevate you as you do that. Good morning, everyone. Where did you get the material? Well, Yasmin, I'm so glad you asked. My favorite place to get fabric is called Discount Fabric Outlet. And unfortunately, that's just here in Michigan. It's in Clawson, Michigan, and they do not ship. But what I will tell you is that there are a lot of us in the local upholstery club here in Michigan that live nearby there. And if you make some friends in my group, you might find people who are willing to ship that for you. Go pick it up and ship it for you. You can purchase fabric over over the phone with them, but they won't ship it for you. So if you can find a cool person in the local upholstery club who lives near there, I'm sure they'll be able to ship it for you. I actually don't live there anymore. It's an hour away from me, but I still drive out there all the time because their fabric is $7.99 a yard. All of it, all of their upholstery fabric. So they get designer discontinued fabrics. Once a week they get giant truckloads of it, and they sell it for $7.99 a yard. And if you're just practicing and you've not spent a lot of time doing this, saving money as you learn is like the best way to go about doing it. So finding fabric super cheap that is really good, decent upholstery fabric is going to be the way you want to go. And Discount Fabric Outlet has like upholstery fabrics that normally go anywhere from like $60 to $100 a yard, and it's just $8 a yard. They got velvets, they got basket weaves, they got crazy prints. Almost everything you've seen me upholster except for recently has used Discount Fabric Outlet fabric. So I highly suggest them. Good morning, Weaponized Mogwai. I'm so glad you're here. I appreciate you being here. Good morning, Nancy. Does that part go in the center of the recliner? I don't, so this was a little far back. My gosh, as you're talking about this part, yes, it does. And it actually fits pretty good. I've done a test fit already. So that actually, this makes me feel better about myself. That looks really good. And we'll be assembling that later today, but we have some pieces we still have to put on. Do you go live on Instagram at the same time today or just TikTok? Nope, I only go live on TikTok. And the reason for that is I might get 10 people who watch on Instagram, but I get last Tuesday I had almost 18,000 people join me from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Not all at once, but throughout that time. So I get way more coverage on TikTok than I do on Instagram. If I had a production company, I would go live on every every platform that you can imagine. What I do is I post these live replays to YouTube. So if you're not able to complete it today or sit here for the whole 4 hours or whatever, later on this week you'll be able to catch it over on YouTube and you'll be able to learn from that. It is uncut. It is the whole 4 hours long, so you'll have to go through that. But I have been working on editing those down to just 1 hour, starting with the New Year, New Chair, New Year project. I've got that edited down to an hour and a half right now. I'm trying to get it edited down to an hour while keeping all of the steps in there. So please be patient with me. I have a full-time marketing consulting gig as well as teaching upholstery, so I don't have a ton of time to edit videos, but I do try to disseminate the information as much as I can. So I appreciate you hanging out here. I'm making some diamond tufted platforms right now for dog beds. This is so timely. I'm so happy. That's so cool. I'd love to see pictures of that. If you have pliers handy, you can grip that recliner function and close it. Ooh, all right. Let's try it. I'm gonna try a wrench though. I think I have a wrench. You're right about that. That makes perfect sense. Let's see. Hold on. You can because you don't have carpal tunnel, but I am having a problem. Well, it does move. It's just that my hand strength isn't strong enough to do it that way, but I do still have the handle. We just don't have it handy. But it did move for me a little bit until it was too hard. Definitely need to take into consideration the increased materials when upholstering. Yeah, you don't want to put this back together with more material than was on it when you took it apart. Let's see. I have been in the upholstery for almost 30 years. You're doing an awesome job at teaching. Thank you so much, Kit Kat Maui. I really appreciate your vote of confidence because I am self-taught, but I did do this professionally for 6 years. And the DIY or the upholstery industry is not always very welcoming to the DIY community. So I do appreciate your vote of confidence. I'm not formally trained. I'm self-taught. So whenever an expert tells me that I'm doing good, yay. Let's see. I just got here. Are you using velvet? Not today, Suze. Usually I am, but today we're using this cool, like rainbow infused basket weave. sort of modernize this mid-century. Is there a way to see your prior lives? There absolutely is. If you go over to YouTube and just search for Loco, you'll find my page, and I have started posting my previous lives starting with the last project that I did, so you can watch projects from start to finish. I will warn you, they're live, they're uncut, or they're not live, but they're the uncut version of the live, so they're like 4, sometimes 5 hours long. I do believe that YouTube chops them up automatically somehow, but I haven't been through to watch it after it did that. So I'm trying to find time to edit them down to 1 hour so that you can watch it not in parts, but this is where we're at right now. What is it called? It's the page. I imagine you're talking about my Facebook page. So I have a private group on Facebook called the Loco Upholstery Club, free to join. And if you're working on something and you get stuck, you can post pictures and videos of your project, and then you can tag me and ask questions. But there are a lot of professionals in there too. I'm not the only one who answers questions, but no one is going to criticize your work or give you feedback if you don't ask for it. So no one is going to be in there going, well, actually, that's not how you do it. We don't allow that in there. So you're not going to see that. Thrift shops sell drapes cheaply. Yes, some drape fabric is heavy enough to use as upholstery fabric. I'm trying a chaise lounge, and this is all new to me. Everybody starts somewhere, and the best way to get started is to dig in and get your hands dirty. So just tear it apart, take pictures, take videos, document the whole process, because you might need to refer back to that to put it back together. But if you get stuck, join my group, the Loco Upholstery Club, tag me in a post. I'm happy to answer any questions for you. What is a trauma project? I'm so glad you asked. I closed my business 2 years ago, and we still had a couple projects left over. For the most part, we returned everyone's projects we weren't able to finish, and we returned the money that they paid. But we had a couple of friends that we were doing projects for who insisted on us just taking our time and getting to them when we felt ready. But closing a business is really hard and difficult, especially when you work so hard and so long to get so good at something that is actually very popular and that you have no issue in getting business for, but you just can't sustain the demand anymore because you're working 7 days a week and 15-hour days. So I've been traumatized by this project because it's so difficult to put back together, and so I've just been putting it off. And if you're wondering how long I've been putting it off, it's probably about 3 years now. So 2.5, 3 years. But my friend Marika, who I met as a client first and we became friends, has been very empathetic and patient with us, and it's just important for her that we do it because she has several other pieces by us, and so we've just been getting to it as we can. Hopefully we'll finish today, definitely in the next couple of lives. I'm so excited that you're close enough for me to take classes in person. I'm so excited that you are too. I'm here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My in-person classes are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So if you're working on a project, it's probably going to take more than 3 hours, which is how long one class is. All my classes are buy 3, get 1 free. So you can come here and take a whole 4-day weekend's worth of classes for $225. And that is going to set you off on a good foot to take those classes consecutively and keep you motivated to finish it. You may still need more than 4 classes to finish it. The deal is the way that my classes are formatted is that you work at your own pace. That's true for my in-person workshops as much as it is for my live virtual workshops. So those you can take and you're with me over Zoom, and I'm physically helping you through your project the same way that I do in person. So you don't have to be at any level of experience to get started. You can come in at any class at any time, and you can take your time. You don't have to do all of those classes consecutively. You can come at them as you please, and I'll help you through your projects that way. Where are you? I'm located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I teach these classes, these lives, and all my workshops from my local makerspace, MakerWorks. It's basically like having a gym membership, but for tools. So you can come in here and it's 14,000 square feet of space that you can use any room in this area to work on your projects. I have a monthly membership that I have, and I have the top tier pro membership. So I have access to the shop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a textiles area. Classroom that I can teach my classes in and do my lives in. There's a wood shop, there's a metal shop, the textiles area, laser cutters, 3D printers, jewelry studio, anything you could possibly make can be made here. And if you're making things to sell on the internet, like I make furniture, which has a high ROI, if I make that and I don't have an overhead, my overhead is my monthly membership fee, which I think the pro membership here is $220 a month. And that's keys to the shop, and you can come in whenever you want. That my overhead is gone, and so I get more profit off of my projects when I'm able to sell them, which is, if I'd have had this place when I started my business, we would have waited so long to get into a brick and mortar. What do you recommend for a first project? I recommend all the time. It's not that I only recommend, a lot of projects are really easy, but I recommend wingbacks, because wingbacks, while they're not easy, they're simple to put back together again, and you can do it without sewing. So it's a project that can build confidence before you know how to sew, and you just want to kind of get something out of the way so you understand how to do it. And every fundamental that you could possibly learn about upholstery can be taught on a wingback. So everything that you learn on a wingback can be applied to almost every project that you think of. You can do channel back on a wingback, you can do deep button tufting, weld, decorative nail heads. The way the frame is put together is similar to how most frames are put together. If you can do a wingback, it's basically a short couch. So you do a wingback, your next project could be a couch, and it's still going to make the same sense to you because it's the same format. So it builds confidence, and it helps people understand the fundamentals on a deeper level. When you start with a project that may not necessarily be small and quick and easy, it is simple. If you can follow a recipe, you can learn how to do a wingback, and then you'll be able to apply that to any project moving forward. Sounds like a fun getaway. It is a fun getaway. So last year we did upholstery retreats where you could come out here and stay with me for a 5-night, 4-day weekend. 3 of those days were 8-hour days full of upholstery workshops. And in between then, we would have our meals chef prepared for us by the owner of the Newton of Ypsilanti, which is a mansion in downtown Ypsilanti, bed and breakfast. We rent out the whole house. Everybody stays there. We have up to 8 people. We did that last year with wild success. We had 3 of them. 2 of them sold out. The third one we had half admission, which was actually just as nice because we got to spend a lot more attention on just a few people. And all of our meals were chef prepared, and we had guests like Sharon O'Connor from Vintique Upholstery, who is also a local upholsterer for the BBC show Money for Nothing. She is one of their default upholsterers that redoes their projects that they do on their television show. She joined us as a guest. Madam of Making joined us as a special guest. Folio Fabrics joined us as a special guest. And then the first thing we do when you come out to the retreat is we actually go on a field trip to Discount Fabric Outlet. And then we let you guys guess how many collective yards we got together. We had a great time. But this year I want to try and make, I had accidentally sent an invite to someone. I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. But if you still want to join, let me know, and I'll let you join. You can answer questions. But what was I saying? I don't remember. There goes. My brain is gone. Let's get back to upholstering, shall we? So we have our 3 pieces cut, but we still have to cut batting for that. So I'm going to go back to the cutting table, and we're going to pull the batting down, and we're going to measure the same 3 pieces. We've got 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to put these over the chair. All of the upholstery materials that I use today, aside from the fabric, I also sell on my website. So if you're working on upholstery projects and you want professional upholstery projects, but you don't have an EIN number and you can't order from a vendor wholesale, you can purchase upholstery supplies from me over on my website at a discount. Every order over $100 is free shipping, so you have that. But what I must warn you is that some of these things come in giant quantities. So this is really good for someone who has a big project or needs a lot of foam. These are 82 inches wide by 30 inches wide. I have some at different measurements, but they're all the same length. And the batting is bigger than I am. I'll show you. So if you end up ordering supplies like this from my website, please keep in mind you're going to need a place to store them because they come giant. This is almost gone, and I go through one of these every couple of weeks with my students. This was this big around when I got it. and they sell them in 20-pound rolls. You can get smaller quantities of this at your local craft store. I believe Joann Fabrics has it. If you're looking for batting at Joann Fabrics, they have 1/2-inch batting on the roll like this, and it feels just like this. Or they have batting in bags in the quilting area. If you're getting batting from a bag, because you can get it at like 80-inch by 90-inch widths, make sure you're looking for the high pile velvet. Quilting batting isn't the same as upholstery batting, and it's not as thick and it's not as strong. So if you're going to get quilting batting, get the thickest, strongest that they have, and that's their high pile poly batting. So this can be called Dacron or poly batting. I just call it batting, so you'll hear me refer to it as that. I need 3 19 by 29-inch pieces. So let's do that. I'm going to use my T-square again. Measure, this time I'm going to measure 29 inches down so that I can get all 3 19-inch pieces across the front of this, because I don't have any scraps of this laying around. Actually, I probably do, but we'll just cut it. So this, 29. Now I can connect these dots. I want to make sure it's 29 down here too. Measure the 3 19-inch pieces down this way. 19 inches here. 19 plus 19 is 38. I'm going to make the same thing on this side. This is, when I measure along these straight lines, it's to ensure that when I cut the piece out that it's perfectly square. So if I measure from corner to corner, corner to corner, it's going to be exactly the same. 19, 38. The last piece of material I need for the inside, oh wait, that's what we cut the third piece for, because we didn't use that. We can take these over here now. One more quick scroll before we finish. Where are you? I'm located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Okay, someone said that's so cool. They're huge. Huge, huge rolls. Okay. So before I do anything, I gotta locate my stapler. There it is. And I want to get you guys a little bit closer. Check it. Oh, my battery is charging. Yay! I was really worried that I was going to go dead before 2 p.m. You can see burlap on the inside here. That was my barrier fabric when I upholstered the outside. That would be the same thing that I used on the inside, but when I did this project, when I started working on upholstering the base to this, it was at a maker's fair at a library, and I forgot to bring enough batting, so I just used a piece of this material, the same material on the inside, because it's just as strong as the burlap. So I'm going to do the same thing over here for consistency to make sure that everything stays symmetrical. So you're going to see me putting this on here, and anyone who's ever upholstered before is going to be like, well, you need to put burlap under that, or tack strip, or blah blah blah. I know this is my burlap solution, so just relax. So I'm going to start off by locking this down on the top tallest part because I want to make sure that it doesn't move before I lock everything else down. I'm going to use what's called a temporary staple to do that because I might need to move that to straighten things up. What I like to do when I'm attaching a piece of material to my project is first evenly distribute it across the surface. That's going to ensure that I can get it on straight without putting 100 staples in that I might end up having to remove later. So I'm going to use a temporary staple. And the way I do that is instead of stapling down flat like this, I'm going to tip it to the side before I staple. So when I put the staple in, the one side doesn't go down in all the way and it leaves a gap underneath. That way I can come back in with my staple puller and remove it if I have to, and I won't have to risk damaging my fabric. So that's how I'm going to attach these first few staples. And what I want to do first is evenly distribute across the surface. So I'm going to lock one down here at the top so it doesn't go anywhere. I'm going to lock one down straight down at the bottom so that I can align that straight line straight, so that when I pull this over, I can't really flex it too much to get these lines crooked. I don't need these lines to be straight for the purposes of what I'm doing here because this is the burlap and it's going to get covered up. But practice makes perfect, and the more you do it the way you're supposed to, the better you get at it. So my first staple is going in here. Let me get you guys at a better angle. First staple here. I need this material to also be able to wrap around the back. So when I lock it down here, I need to be sure that I can do that before I put a staple in it. So I'm kind of holding it in place to make sure it does that. Temporary staple on top. And now I'm going to bring it over to the side, and I'm going to work on getting these, well actually hold on, let me do this side like I said I was going to. I'm going to bring this straight down to keep this line straight, and I'm just going to staple it right down here with a temporary staple to keep that anchored so that I can stretch it out to this way. Now I want to bring it straight across and stretch it out evenly in this direction, and I'm going to put a staple on the top here and a staple on the bottom there to get it evenly stretched. Now you can see this is clearly larger than I need it, but we're going to cut off the excess material that we don't need. We do need this to fold over here, and we need to stop down here. This was part of that piece that we cut the scrap out of, so it's much bigger than what we need. If you can avoid using extra, like this much extra material, do it, but these were scrap pieces for me, so I'm using the scrap pieces to accommodate. I'm pulling so that I can make sure that the material gets nice and taut across before I lock a staple in, and I actually cannot see the direction of the stripes from here, so I'm going to lock a temporary staple in up top here. And then I'm going to step back so that I can take a look at it to make sure it looks straight. That's looking good to me. So I'm happy with how that looks. So my next staple is going to be going straight down from here so that I can get all of the sheared fabric out of the center here. But I need to staple down here to this frame. This one doesn't wrap out and under because I have all these mechanisms here and I can't cover that up with fabric, but it is just going to go down right to this edge, and that's going to support the batting that needs to go on top. The trick is getting my hands in there with everything still in there. When you're doing a recliner, when you're reupholstering a recliner, only take apart the parts that you have to. You're not going to want to find yourself in the situation I am today where everything is taken apart and labeled and you have to try and guess how to put it back together. The only parts that needed to be taken apart out of here was the base unscrewed, the footrest unscrewed, and the arms out and the back off. But we have removed springs, we have removed fasteners, we have removed parts of the mechanism, and we got to figure out how to get that back together. So I'm going to start with a temporary staple here, and then I'm going to fix this area down this way. I'm actually going to start here so that I can pull that straight. I'm still using temporary staples, and I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 right now. Another thing, if you invest in a pneumatic stapler, invest in a long nose first. You're going to find yourself in a situation where you need a long nose, and if you don't have it, you're going to be stuck. And you can use it for anything. Right now, I can't reach this area. I'm going to see if a long nose will help. This stapler, I've never heard the name said out loud. I believe it's BEA or BEA or BA. This is like a $400 stapler. I highly recommend it. I love it, but $400 staplers are really hard to afford when you're just getting started. I do suggest a pneumatic stapler over any other type of stapler. You can get one at Harbor Freight, but the staples that they use are much bigger and chunkier, and sometimes for show wood projects, they can really take chunks of wood out of there. So it's good for a starter because it's 20 bucks, but if you're going to invest in a pneumatic, look forward to spending at least 100 bucks on a tool, because you can get these on Amazon for under $100. So I highly suggest, if you're just getting started, to save as much money as possible, but the right tools for the job will make the job easier, go faster, and in the long run will save you money. This, the only issue I have with this tool is that it needs to be oiled more frequently. I get more misfires than I do with the other tool, but it just needs to be oiled. I use it 4 days a week with 6 students each one of those days, and for the past year and a half, and it's held up just fine. So now I want to stretch out this area. And now I can start pulling this up this way to really get those areas taut. And if I can't get rid of this wrinkle, that's something I'm going to have to address in this corner. The only problem is I can't flip this all the way over to the edge because this is giving me resistance. So I need to make a cut in this fabric to relieve it so that it will go on that curve. And let me grab some scissors. And some water. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll try to get to them when I'm able to address the screen, and I usually do that between tasks, so I try to answer as many questions as I have. But if you are here and you're hanging out and you're having a good time, you're learning something, all I ask is when I bring it up, tap the screen to like it. Tap it as violently as possible for as long as you can. A little meter is going to show up here. It's a little heart. It'll race its way to the end. When it gets to the end, it'll throw you a party. If you do that, my content gets pushed out to the For You page. People find me. They learn. I teach workshops. They take virtual classes with me, or they'll take in-person classes with me, and that's how I run my business. So you guys do a lot when you're here to help elevate my business by just engaging with the content, by leaving comments, sharing, but mostly it's the tapping of the screen that does it for me. You don't have to send gifts, though I do appreciate it. I really like that, and that looks super cute, but that costs you money, and I only get fractions of cents, and TikTok gets the most of it. I don't mind accepting them. I am grateful for them, but you can create more of an impact by just tapping the screen and saving your money, because TikTok has taken most of it. Okay, where were we? Now we have to make a relief cut. So I have fabric that wants to go this way. You can see that here. And I have fabric that wants to go up this way. But I can't appease both sides at the same time, so I need to make a cut. It's hard for me to show you here, but this is on a curve. And my first cut is coming right for the ditch of the curve, right here. I want to come down to the frame, but above it, because I still need that fabric to roll over. So I don't want to cut all the way down to the wood, and I don't want to cut beyond it, or else you're going to see that cut here. Now this is the burlap layer, this is the barrier layer. Batting is going to go on top of this, and then another layer of fabric is going to go on top of that. This is a scrap piece, which is why we're using it. So if you mess up here, that's fine. It's going to get covered up. This is a great practice layer of fabric before you put your show fabric on. The batting layer is also a great practice layer. So take your time between these steps to make sure you get really good at the fundamental of cutting it, and try to understand why it is and where it is you have to cut it to get it to do the thing you want it to do. For me, to get these two pieces of fabric to go this way, to lay on that curve, I need to sort of divide the Red Sea and cut it right here in the ditch of the arm. This is what I'm thinking it is, the elbow ditch of the piece. So I'm going to make a slit down, not all the way to the wood, but close. If I've made it not close enough, it won't settle down on the frame here. It'll still stick up and it'll still feel tight. I have just managed to get it across. So I'm going to pull up from here, and I'm going to put a staple in this spot. That we're going to work on locking down this area, and then we'll work on locking down this area. I like to work my way from the middle out, because if I have extra material here, I can push it out that way. Same goes for this direction. So these are still temporary staples. Temporary staples, if you end up not having to remove them, then you can just hammer them down and they can stay. But if you end up having to remove them and your staple is flat down in the fabric and you use a sharp tool to try and get it out, you might end up damaging the fabric. In this case, this is a basket weave and it does fray, so the more I have to like staple it and take it out and cut it and staple it and take it out, the more the structural integrity of the fabric is compromised. So I want to do that as little as possible. So I've got that part locked up. Let's see this. So I'm locked down here and I need to go all the way across here. This is looking good. I'm just going to start putting a couple staples in up here. I'm getting more resistance here, so I'm going to make another slit, which just happens to be in the middle of the curve from here to here. So I'm making another relief cut down this way, so that this fabric can come this direction and this fabric can come this direction. Now this can get a little bit more of a snip. When I bring this material over, I don't want to overlap the material that's already there. There's a cap that goes on here that's going to clean up this area, and if my material continues to double over itself or layer over itself, it creates bulk and bulge under the final fabric that has to be there, and you'll be able to see it, and it doesn't look cute at all. So I'm going to grab this now. I like to do this smoothing motion so that I can pull it taut without pulling it too tight. This isn't going to get any human weight on it, so it can be much tauter than, say, your seat. But if you pull too tight and human weight is on it, and it's not able to stretch and flex with that weight, it will rip away from the staples, particularly if you're using frayed fabric that frays really easily. Here, I'm confident that I can just start filling in this gap. But for you, if you're just getting started, leave it at that staple and move on until you get everything in place, because you don't want to end up removing staples when you don't need to. When you put your final staples in here, I put them all diagonal in this direction to help keep this area flattened down. So that's what I'm going to do here. And they're about every ½ inch apart. You do not need your staples end for end like this stitching, and if you took apart your piece and saw that someone had done that to you, I apologize. They're not nice. But you don't need to put a bajillion staples in this. This particular layer is going to get even more staples on it when I put the batting and the fabric, and your wood has a finite number of staples that it is willing to hold before it starts to fall apart. So keep that in mind, and also keep the next upholsterer in mind before you start dropping staples in. So this all looks nice and flush. I'm going to pull from this side to get all that nice and flush. Well, let's just start here. We're going to work from this middle out this way. And then we're going to readjust our grip. When I'm pulling this, I'm not just pulling this way, but I'm also pulling like out so that all of this can get straightened out. Okay, this side's done here. I'm going to come back up here, but before I pull this area, I want to lock this down around the corner. I can't do that because all of this is bunching up here, so I need to make another relief cut that's going to allow this material to wrap around the side. When I do that, I'm just cutting right up the back edge of this frame here so that I can keep it cut with that frame. That way when I stop my cut right here in the corner, that material can flop right over this side. So, and if you want to make your cut shorter than you need it at first, try and wrap it over, see if it still buckles there. If it still buckles, it can be cut more. If it doesn't buckle and it just comes over, you're golden. Okay, so now I have my cut. It literally goes along this edge of the frame so that this piece can come around to this side. So that's my next step. And I'm going to start that. I'm looking to make this taut, make sure there's no shearing. I'm going to start my first one up here in this corner. Oh, wrong one. Then my second one I'm going to do down here, so that I'm stretching from here down, but all of this is also getting stretched out. And that's before locking all the staples in on this side, because I want to make sure that between this staple and this staple, all the fabric is taut going up and down, but it's also taut going side to side. You can use the smoothing motion. Work your way up. And then up here, I have material that's going to like fold over if I keep going. I don't want any of this material to wrap over itself. I don't want to layer it up. I just want one layer of fabric there. So I'm going to make some strategic cuts to get this folded and wrapped and stapled without it folding over itself. I'll bring you guys a little bit closer so you can see that. Let me just get a drink of water real quick. All of this material needs to wrap around here to finish off this edge. But when I do this, it wraps this way. It still wants to fold either in this direction or this direction, and you're going to be tempted to just run over top of it and do that. But now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of really thick fabric here, and that's going to leave a lump, and it's not consistent with the way that I did it on the other side. So I need to get rid of any material that's going to overlap itself. So first I'm going to take this all the way up almost to where the staple ends here and push this in as much as I can until it makes that fold. So we're just going to leave that up and staple everything in between. Now I can see how much extra material I'm working with. And the first thing I want to do is cut right up along where it's stapled down here at the top so that this material can lay flat in this direction. See how that works? The other thing is, this is extra material that I don't need, and you'll notice I didn't overlap it with this side either. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off now too, and that's within a ½ inch of that staple. I missed this whole line, so let me get that stapled before I go too far. Perfect. Now I can take all that excess off. Remove your excess fabric as you go because it's going to help you keep your project nice and clean so you can have clean lines, and it is less confusing later on down the road when you're trying to put it back together, because I can't see anything with all of this fabric here. I need to get rid of it. So I have my one cut here, my other cut I'm going to take right next to it. The only thing I need is for this fabric to fold up over this edge. This whole area is going to get a cap on it to cover up all this work. So I just need to really cover these edges and this corner to ensure that you can't see the wood underneath it after it's fully upholstered. I'm going to lock down this fray so it stays. And now this is just one layer of fabric, and this is all just extra material. So I can take that off. And that looks nice and clean. So I have all of this material now too that can get taken off so that I don't get confused by it. And I'm cutting all of that off within a 1/2 inch of the staple. This fabric frays. The reason why I'm putting my staples diagonal is not just to create a flat area here, but it covers more ground up and down this way than it were to do if it were straight up and down. And if it were side to side, this material is actually going to flip up. Maybe you can see it better down here. This material flip up and you'll see it underneath the top material. So it's really important that you keep everything flat so that it can look clean. So let's just get the rest of this off. If you're here and you're learning something, tap that like button because that does a lot to help me grow my business. And when you're doing that, you're legit helping to sustain the upholstery industry because more people are learning how to do this every day when they join my group or they watch my lives. I have several students who have started their own businesses, are taking their own clients, and have learned how to do a lot in a very short amount of time. So when you guys participate, you're really doing a lot to not just help me, but you're helping other people grow their skills and businesses too. So I have one more staple I can put down here. I'm going to move you guys back. From the inside. So I still have to work out what's going to happen here. I need to make a relief cut so that this material can go around the side. But I also need to lock this down deeper into the corner here. Move that out of the way. I'm going to pull this with my hand to stretch and then come back through with my stapler, which has fallen on the ground. Even the long nose can't get in there all the way. So now I can finish my staples right along this edge to hold that in place. You'll notice everything got nice and clean over here. Checking where my edge is. I don't think I have batting on either one of these sides yet, so that's going to be the next step, is to do it on both. I'm looking over on this leg for reference to see what I did before because I have way more knowledge. I need to cover up this area as well as go around this way, so I need to make another cut that's going to allow this fabric to go this way and more fabric to still go this way. And that cut is going to be diagonal here, right for that ditch. And I don't want to go all the way, but most of the way. So this is relieved and I can lock it down in the front. Oh, I ran out of staples. Trim off the excess as I go. And now this can wrap to the top. I'm going to trim off more so that I can wrap this down to the side, but it stops right here. So once I'm here, I should be good to go. Look at that. That's good. I can use my stapler even to help me push the tension to get it where I need to go, because it holds it in place better than my hands. It does cover the inside of there. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm gonna, oh no, that's extra. Okay, so now all this extra fabric can be removed so that I can put the batting in. You want to make sure you remove the extra fabric because you're going to put another layer here. This is just a utility layer. It's a barrier for the batting that has to go there. And it turns out I did both of the outsides already with batting, so we really only needed one piece of pattern and one piece of batting. It didn't go all the way across. Hold on. That's as far as that. Checking both sides for symmetry. Perfect. I have fabric to remove on the other side too, and then we can begin putting the batting on. So let's get rid of the fabric. So now we're just getting rid of all the excess fabric on this side, because the next layer on both sides is going to be batting, and then we're going to put fabric on top. If you're joining me and you're like, but wait, that is the fabric. Yes, it is the fabric, but we use this fabric as a barrier fabric because we had some scrap materials left over. It's a barrier to the batting. The batting is the next step to go on. Good. We're gonna put this thing in a lockdown right here. Finish cutting the excess here, and then before we do the batting, I'll go back and look for comments. So if you guys have questions right now about my work or about anything that you have questions or curious about, go ahead and put them in the comment section. I'm gonna go back through and read them all. Those questions. Oops, my word charged. Going back through, keep your questions coming. I'm going to take a minute right now before the next step to answer them. So go ahead and put them in if you got them. Gosh, there's a lot, you guys. And as just like last week, thank you, Weaponized Mogwai, for answering some questions in the comment section. I appreciate your help. That helps. I see Ray's Revitalized Furniture is here too. Let's see. Wow, you guys really put a lot in here. Okay, it looks like you guys up here are having your own conversations. So I'm going to let that go. I'm not going to read all that off. I'm just going to read questions. Someone asked if I have other videos. I put these live replays over on YouTube, so if you don't get through to the end of this today and you're just catching parts of it, later on this week you'll be able to catch it over on YouTube and you'll be able to watch the whole thing uncut. I don't have time to edit videos. I am working on putting series together so that you guys can watch parts of them and learn skills, and also breaking each one down to separate skills so that I can just show you those one at a time. A lot of people who are learning upholstery might be comfortable in a lot of areas, but they might have one or two areas that they're just unsure of or they've never seen before. I want to try and make those simpler for people, but for now I don't have the time to edit. I have a full-time marketing consulting gig on top of doing this, so I just don't have the production time to go through that. Thank you guys so much for being here and for hitting that like button. We're at 24.4 thousand likes. We got an hour and a half left. We got over 150,000 likes last time. If we could get that many likes while you guys are on here this time, it's going to tell the algorithms that this content is becoming more relevant, that you guys are becoming more interested in it, and it's going to push it out to people who are just like you, who are interested in learning this, maybe hanging out with me for a little while and getting some tutorials for free. I used to do upholstery. That's fantastic, Patsy. I heard that women got into upholstery during World War II when the men were away at war, which is crazy. It's still a male-dominated industry, but what I'll tell you is of the close to 300 people that I've taught in the past, 18 months, 99% of them have been women. So I'm pretty excited about the future of upholstery. I wish I had time to watch you all the time. Would love to learn to do this. You are pleasant to listen to. What a nice thing to say. Thank you. Join the local upholstery club, because we have little small bits and increments of learning opportunities there where you don't have to sit around for 5 hours and watch me do this live. Sweet. Do you repair things? I do. I do repair things. There's a lot of repairs I know how to do myself, but my husband is also a woodworker and metal fabricator. We had our own fab shop for 6 years where we did furniture fabrication and restoration, and we also built out fixtures for commercial spaces. So we have a lot of skills, which made us like a one-stop shop for designers and architects very early on. I love this fabric, but so would my cats. Very true. People always ask me, what's the best fabric for if you have cats? And some people have told me, some experts have told me that velvet cats don't like, but that has not been my experience. I have 2 cats and they're assholes. Already trying to destroy some vintage chairs I would like to reupholster. That's fantastic, Jay. Join the local upholstery club. The link is in my bio. If you're working from home and you get stuck and you have a question, you can post a picture or video, tag me in it, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions in there. I believe in you. You can do it. I have YouTube videos of my lives that you can go watch. Thank you so much, Weaponized Mogwai, for putting that information in the comments section. So this is not the original fabric, or is it just being reused? This is not the original fabric. I had scraps of, so this is the fabric that I'm putting on it. This is how it's going to look when it's done. Let me grab a picture of the chair the way you saw it. This is what she looked like before. Now I know this chair looks green to you, but the original chair was actually orange. And this is what happened to the chair when it got faded by the sun. So when you lift this up, everything underneath there is orange. Under the buttons is orange and the seams is orange, but the sun faded this fabric, and so it looked green when we got it. But this is the material that is going to go on here now. Let me get a little bit closer. And you can see it is very colorful and it really makes my hair pop, so it looks good on camera. What is the importance of the barrier layer for the batting? That's a really great question. When you go to put batting on your frame, and now this frame is all covered up, you can't see it, but when you go to put anything on your frame goes in. So it's just like pieces of wood that frame out the piece that have a big gap inside of them. And if you just were to put batting, which is a very fragile material, on the outside of it, then you are at risk, even with fabric on top, of someone's hand or something going through that and tearing the batting down, and then you're losing the softness and the structural integrity of your fabric on this piece. So the barrier fabric helps to create a barrier layer for that batting to go onto. With batting, it's not even as important as it is with foam. You always want to cover up your springs with a barrier layer of fabric. You always want to cover up your jute webbing with a barrier layer of fabric, and that's because over time, any gaps in the frame or in the springs or in the jute webbing, that foam will cut right through and fall through those gaps. So you have to put a barrier layer of fabric over there. Now that's usually burlap. I use synthetic burlap most of the time, especially here in my classes with my students, but scrap fabric works just as well too. It just has to be like a heavy duty fabric or a medium to heavyweight fabric. This is a heavyweight basket weave, so this is perfect. I had extra chunks of this laying around, and in an effort to conserve material that I would have to go out and purchase more of, I just use a scrap fabric to create barrier layers here. This outer layer is done. This has batting on it, and I don't know if you can tell here, but it looks a lot softer than this layer here, which is just flat fabric. Amazing hair color, by the way. Makes me want to dye mine. You absolutely should. I feel like I went too many years of my life without blue hair. I started dyeing it blue 5 years ago. Before that, it was brown, black, mostly gray. I got my roots coming in, so about 60% gray under there. I'm in need of a dye job. This is actually called Tanzanite, and it's Ion brand, and it is a box dye, so it is a permanent dye. I bleach my hair before I put it in, but it's a permanent dye that you add developer to. It lifts your hair and then it deposits the color. When it's dyed, when it's first dyed, it's almost so dark that it looks black, and then every time you wash it, it washes out and it gets a little bit brighter. In the sun, if you guys think it looks bright right now, you guys see me in the sun, because the sun makes it literally glow. So when I go outside, people are like, oh my god, your hair. I love it. I'm 43 years old. I like the attention. Hello, I just followed you. I needed to change my fabric on my chair. Thank you. I'll be watching. Love you. Love you too. Thank you so much, Lady Kane. I appreciate you following. There's a local upholstery club, which is my private Facebook group that you can join and you can get personal assistance. But I also teach virtual live upholstery workshops. They're not pre-recorded tutorials. It's you and me and 5 other people in a class for 3 hours working through our projects. You're not just going to learn how to do your projects step by step with my hands-on guidance, but you're going to learn a lot of fundamentals through the other projects that are brought into the class as well. Each virtual upholstery class is open to up to 6 people and is 3 hours long. I teach those on Monday evenings from 6 to 9 p.m. and Saturday afternoons from 2 to 5 p.m. So you can, that's Eastern Standard Time, of course, by the way. So you can join those, or you can take my in-person workshops here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I teach them on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to make it easy for you to take 4 consecutive classes in a row if you need to, or multiple consecutive classes in a row. And all my classes are buy 3, get 1 free. That's virtual and in-person workshops. So if you buy 3 classes, you get the 4th one free. You do have to add all of those to your cart in order for that discount to be applied at checkout. But that basically makes your weekend upholstery trip $225. So even if you're not in the area, you can travel out here. This week we had people from Ohio, people from Wisconsin. We have people come in from all over the place. I've had people come in from probably about 20 different states to come take classes here, because it's just not something that you can find near you. I had very successful upholstery retreats last spring and summer where we did full weekends where you can come out here and stay with me and take a 4-day weekend learning upholstery. But this year I want to make it more accessible. Those were $1,600 a pop. I'm going to be taking it on tour to maker spaces across the United States. So I'm looking for maker spaces willing to host me for a weekend upholstery camp. If you have a maker space near you, like the one I have here, I don't have a workshop. I work out of my local makerspace. If you have one near you, contact them. Let them know that I'm looking for places to do upholstery workshops for the weekend. And if you connect me with them and I end up coming out there, you will be able to take the whole weekend upholstery camp for free for being the one that connected me. So if you have a makerspace in your area, reach out to them, tell them who I am. There's a link to my weekend upholstery camps in my bio. You can send them right there, or my email. That's even better. You need to do the footwork to get them to me to have that conversation, so make sure that you're reaching out to them and letting them know, telling them who I am, and I'm happy to come out there anywhere in the United States to come see you and teach a class. I've been tapping like crazy. I appreciate it, you guys. We're at 26.1 thousand likes. Every time you guys violently tap the screen, it sends all my content out to the For You page. That's how people find me. That's how people learn to take my classes. And that's how you grow the upholstery industry, people. So keep at it. Very classic 60s, 70s. Yeah, so the material itself, the style, is very mid-century. It works with the project, but it is very brightly colored, so it does break a couple of rules. How do you cut the foam padding? So I'm using batting on this today. When we get to a foam section, I'll go over that, but I use an electric bread knife to cut most of my foam. At 1-inch foam can be cut with scissors, but anything over 1 inch, I use an electric bread knife. But you don't need an electric bread knife, you just need a serrated knife. Any serrated knife will work. It was, oh wow, it was orange at one point. The very sun faded. Yeah, it's crazy. I wish I had a piece to show you what it looked like. Thanks for explaining the barrier layer. Absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for showing us techniques. I have several pieces to redo. I'm happy to do this here for free for you on Tuesdays, Tutorial Tuesdays. I'm just working through the projects that I have to work through anyway, so if I can take the time to explain it to you, I'm happy to have you learn that for free in the process. Are you a teacher at a school or college? What city? Alabama here. Took classes before, but my school. So I teach my upholstery workshops here at my local makerspace. I've been teaching upholstery for about 6 years now, since the first year that I was in my brick and mortar, because we needed to supplement our income, and I figured people wanted to learn how to do it. So I taught evening classes out of my shop, and now I teach them here at my local makerspace 4 days a week. There are not a ton of formal upholstery education opportunities here in the United States. Since mass production went overseas, the people who remained in the United States, who were able to stay in business and keep clients, were not passing down that information. It got taken out of trade schools because people weren't needed to do it, because they were mass producing overseas, paying people slave labor wages to do the work for them. And now that we're in such high demand, because after COVID hit, the supply chain got damaged and it's never been the same. So ordering materials, or even ordering custom pieces online that were typically mass produced, are only being made on demand now. So the process still takes 6 months to a year to even get something from Wayfair ordered, because they're not producing all that, mass producing it anymore. So it's just as easy for you to pay an upholsterer out this way. Only everyone in the industry out here now is aging out of the business. They didn't teach anyone how to do this. 1, because it's too expensive to teach people while you're in production. And 2, once you teach someone how to do this, they realize how much of a demand there is for it, and that they can go back and start teaching this out of the garage, so they tend to leave that company. Upholstery businesses cannot survive without multiple employees. Too many of my peers have had to close their businesses because they couldn't hire anybody to do this. They can't hire anybody to do this because nobody knows how to do it. It's too expensive to teach people in production, because it would take me an afternoon to do this whole chair, but it's taken me like 6 weeks of lives and 3 years to get to finishing this chair, because I've been using it as a piece to teach people the whole entire time. So when you're teaching people, the process takes a lot longer. You get behind on your work. You can't make any money. You could walk into an upholstery shop and say, I'll work for you for free if you just show me how to do this, and chances are they're going to show you the door, because it costs money to have you there learning, and they just no opportunities for them to train. There's nowhere for you to learn. So after I closed my business, I tried to make sure that I stayed on track to teaching as many people as I could, so that maybe one day I can get back into doing this for clients. I personally would love to open up what's like a tattoo shop, but for furniture, where you can go in and you can pick your piece off the wall, pick your material, pick your artist, and have that person create something for you. I like the whole, I was a tattoo artist and body piercer for 6 years, and I love the format, the business format. I also love I love the smell of green soap. I love walking into a tattoo shop and choosing something and feeling creative. And that's the kind of environment that I want to bring if I ever go back into business doing this for clients again. But for right now, I'm happy to just be teaching you. As soon as I can get more people trained, I can get them together, and we can open up our own shop, and I'll have like 5 cool chick chair artists working by my side. That's the goal. I have a settee set. I'm terrified to reupholster. Don't be terrified. Go find something in the trash and practice on it first. the first step to learning upholstery is tearing something apart and figuring out how to put it back together. I'm self-taught, and I use reverse engineering to be able to teach myself how to do this, because at the time I was learning, there weren't tutorials online. I could watch people do it, but they're not telling you how to do it, and the reason for that is they didn't want to breed competition. So it was really difficult learning, so a lot of my learning came from experience. So I like to sort of break things down to people in a way that new people understand, because they don't know what they're looking at when they first look at it. So when you take a class with me, that's the experience you're going to have. You can join me live via virtual upholstery workshop. I teach those twice a week on Mondays and Saturdays. So you can bring your practice piece to class, and I will literally walk you through hands-on, step-by-step from start to finish, so that you feel more confident about making some tough decisions as you work through your first piece. Thank you so much for teaching us for free. I'd love to go to an event someday. It would be so much fun. Keep an eye out. There's a link on my in my bio to upholstery camps. I haven't started any yet, but I am in talks with several places. We're figuring out how to make it work. It's a very expensive thing for me to do, but I want to try and make it as accessible as possible. Last year, a weekend upholstery camp would cost you $1,600. I don't want it to cost that much. I want to hang out with you for the weekend, but I want it to be as accessible to more people as possible, because the people who need to learn upholstery are people who need the money from it. And it's a really great way to make money, but if you don't have money to invest in it to begin with, you can have a difficult time learning. So I'm trying to make it as easy and accessible to join as possible. Thank you for your information on classes. Can't find any in the South in Alabama. It's hard to find anywhere. I mean, there are less than a dozen formal opportunities to learn upholstery in the United States, and I'm not considered one of them. I'm self-taught, so I teach you the way that I learned, but I also have had the opportunity to work alongside professionals and as a fabricator to learn a lot with hands-on experience along the way. I want to build a couch. Do you recommend I should do that? I do. I follow a lot of people on Pinterest that show you how to make couch frames, or you can just watch them do it. There are a lot of structural intricacies to building a couch, so I suggest you study it, weight limits and everything else, but also, like, people tend to build things at 90-degree angles to sit in. No one ever sits in anything at a 90-degree angle. There's usually a pitch to the back. There's a lot of things for you to consider before you build it. Well, what I will say is if you can get the right pattern for it, you can usually order those online. You can build it faster than you can strip it down. So I always suggest that you build it. I love the way you teach, girl. You're amazing. Thank you so much, Chili Chill. That's such a nice thing to say. The best way is a bread knife to keep it truly straight. Yep, I use an electric bread knife, but you can use a regular bread knife too. You got to get out into the Austin area at some point for a weekend class. I would love to come out to the Austin area. That sounds like a lovely place to hang out. So call your local makerspace. Tell them to get a hold of me. Thank you for sharing information. Thank you so much. I apprentice mostly. So good luck finding an apprenticeship out here. It's very difficult to find an apprenticeship as well as it is to find a good education. I have 2 chairs to redo, and my grandma is no longer around. I feel confident. You can do it. If you can follow a recipe, you can learn upholstery. You just have to go slow. Don't get cocky and confident, and don't go faster because you feel like you might make a mistake if you don't go faster. Like, going fast will actually make it take a lot longer. So just take your time, research. I entrench myself. I'm ADHD, so I entrench myself in the information of whatever it is that I want to learn, and that's how I found myself here today. So I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My shop, I work out of a makerspace here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I teach in-person classes 4 days a week and virtual live upholstery classes 2 days a week, where you can actually join me in class and I help you with your project live in real time. You can also see who's going to be worth hiring from your classes. You can, and you know what? So if you join the local upholstery club, you can start to see all of these, like, students budding their own businesses right now. My student and assistant, Lynn Sellers, just opened up her own upholstery shop in her hometown. She started learning with me a year ago. She is starting her business under a really cool program through her city where she gets to get some amount of free rent to get started, so she doesn't have to take as many risks. And she is starting off letting people know, hey, I'm new at this. I'm pretty good so far, but I still have a lot to learn, and my prices will reflect that. So she gets to start business the same exact way I did, which is while in training. And it's been really cool. She's already been taking on clients through this past year, and her hometown is really excited to have her. In fact, on I think it's Saturday the 24th, but it might be the 27th, we're doing at her shop, we're doing a small business shower instead of a baby shower. We're doing a small business shower where as many people as we can get from the local upholstery club to show up to help her finish getting her shop set up at the end of February so that she can have her opening day in March, and to maybe get some donations of supplies or materials or even a little bit of money to help get her off on the right foot to starting her business, so that she doesn't have capital. She got a grant opportunity, and she's banking this business on the fact that she can be successful within the first couple of years. So we want to get her off on the right foot by doing a small business shower. There's more information about that on the local upholstery club page, and I've been posting it on the local Facebook page. So if you want to get involved in helping Lynn make sure that her business flourishes, like from the ground up, there's a lot you can do to help her out there, or you can meet us there at the shop that Saturday and help her get set up. But that's the kind of support you get in the local upholstery club when you join that Facebook group. I have a couple of dozen students who are already taking on clients over this past 18 months that I've been teaching from MakerWorks. We've had job placements, and I have a handful of students that I would very much love to pull in if I were to get my own shop again and do that tattoo shop for furniture like I have dreams of doing. I have about 5 ladies who are really, really good, naturally talented, and taking on clients who I would love to bring on with me full-time as a team. Do you chart when you cover? I'm not familiar with that term. Curb alerts are a great way to practice. They are. I have a 30-foot by 40-foot storage unit full of curb alerts waiting for me to do something to. I actually use the pieces that I collect that I find cool and want to do. I have a program called the Sponsor a Student program where you can pay for the cost of classes and materials for that particular piece, or you can bring your own project to the table, and my students will get free classes to do the upholstery on it. And we've had over 40 free classes for that program this year, and we've had 5 pieces go out the door that looked like a professional did it because they had my hands-on support. It's finding the machines for that many to use that's hard. I think we're talking about sewing machines, so you don't need an industrial sewing machine to do that. That's a common misconception. You don't need an industrial sewing machine to do upholstery, but you do need an all-metal machine. So older antique machines that are made of all metal, no plastic parts, those can go through upholstery materials. So you don't need a walking foot, although if you have a walking foot, it's going to make your job easier, make it go faster, and make you better at it. You can just use an old antique all metal machine for upholstery, and that's going to get you through. It got me through the first couple of years. I love learning from you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad that you guys are here joining me. 18th Century Allison says, do you have suppliers you recommend? I use Actifoam because they're local to me in East Point, Michigan. I've used them when I had my fab shop. I use them for my projects here now and with my students, and those are also the materials that I carry on my website. So if you order materials off my website, foam, batting springs, jute, thread, needles, tools, anything like that, I have listed on my website. They're actually coming from Actifoam, and you get them at a slight discount because I get a wholesaler discount, and you also get free shipping if your order is over $100 or more. You do have to allow up to 2 weeks for it to ship because they manually are putting everything in. It's not like a mass production company. It's a hometown local company, but they do a really great job of sending really good professional materials your way, and you don't need a business number, an EIN, or anything to order from my website, but you'll still get professional materials from a professional vendor. Okay, so now we're ready to put batting on these inside panels. We'll start with this one here, and this goes on exactly the same way as the fabric layer went on that you just saw, except I don't want this batting material to wrap over to the top. I have a cap that I have to put on this area to cover up the work of this area, and I don't want to put batting, or I don't want to put extra layers of material here that are going to bulk up and show up on a thin layer of fabric. So the material that goes here, the batting that goes here, is going to get glued on, and then I'm just going to trim it right along the edge of the frame so that it doesn't come over the edge, make this lumpy, and make it show up when I go to put that cap on there. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'll show you how that's going to line up. And you'll notice this material is much bigger than I need, and that is because when I'm teaching students how to do this for the first time, you need material to hold on to with your hands while you do this. This is way more than I need, so I mismeasured a little bit. But when you're first learning, you usually end up cutting less material than you need, and it makes it difficult to do your project. So I always have my students add a couple of extra inches to make sure that it's going to get covered. So I just wanted to make sure that this could cover there. I'm going to use a contact adhesive to connect, to attach the batting to this side. Contact adhesive only sticks to itself. So it comes in a spray can. I'm about to show you what it looks like. Yeah, I have to spray it on the batting, and I have to spray it on the side of the chair in order for it to stick there. Now, once it's there and dried, tacky a little bit, when I stick it to it, it becomes a permanent adhesion. So remember, when everyone sees me starting to put the batting on this, and they're like, why are you putting batting on the fabric? That's because we use these scrap pieces of fabric as the barrier layer in the frame. So don't freak out. It's going to be fine. This is my go-to spray adhesive. This is what I carry on my website. This is a little overkill for what I'm about to use it for, but it's the only thing I have on hand. You can get contact adhesive like this at Home Depot or Lowe's or Joann Fabrics that is perfect for gluing this batting to here, or even for gluing your foam to the surface of a substrate seat or something, but it's not good for gluing pieces of foam together. And you may not have ever thought of gluing pieces of foam together, but if you have a contact adhesive like this, you can glue two big chunks of foam together permanently and use it for that cushion you didn't have enough foam for. So this helps you to conserve materials if you're trying to conserve materials, and if you're just learning how to do upholstery for the first time, I always suggest you spend as little money on materials as possible because you're practicing, and the materials is the expensive part of it. And if you're not turning over a profit for every project that you make, you're going to want to limit the amount of money that you spend on materials. So there are some projects that you can do where you can reuse the foam, you can reuse the batting, and you can reuse this and that. Some you're not going to be able to. But if you can fuse two pieces together, and I think Ray's Revitalized Furniture, if she's still here, she just did a one cushion couch seat by fusing three pieces of foam together and then making one big cushion cover for it, and it looks really lovely. So this is, I mean, this can save you on a lot of different projects. This comes out like Spider-Man's web, so you can see it. It doesn't have a lot of overspray, it doesn't go this way, it comes out kind of in like thick little strings, so it's easy to control so you don't get it anywhere. But if you do get contact adhesive on your project, on your clothes, or on your fabric, acetone takes it out and oil takes it out. Now, you're not going to be able to use those two things on every piece of fabric or piece of material. Think wisely about it and test your material before you do it, but acetone and oil will take contact adhesive out of things. Just test it first. Because acetone can melt things too, and oil can ruin things like fabric and sometimes wood finishes. So I just put a light coat on that, probably in more areas than I needed to, and now I'm just going to put a light coat on the surface. And I don't need to do like edge to edge, because really it's just holding this batting in place so that when I go to upholster it, it doesn't slide down and become lumpy and weird. Now, contact adhesive only sticks to itself, but it only sticks to itself when it's tacky and dry. So I shake this loose and blow some air on the other side so that it will get tacky and dry. And then place. So this just needs to cover the surface of the inside, and I'm going to trim along this edge and around the outside edges to remove the excess. I am going to prioritize my bottom edge so that I don't have to try and get my hands in there to cut, because it's a pain in the butt. And I'm rolling this out. This does get very sticky, you guys, so that I can place it properly. So I'm all the way to the edge here. Once it makes contact, it's fairly permanent, so you're going to want to keep that in mind. And then I'm just wiping up so it sticks to the side. I mean, you can really see how it's sticking down here. And this glue is sticky. Now I've got it on my shirt, sticking to your hands. Acetone and oil will take it out of all of this. So now, rubbing that down, and I can take a crappy pair of scissors and come through and trim this off. You do not want to use fabric scissors on batting that has glue on it. It will ruin it. So I have dedicated scissors in my classroom for that type of thing. So I'm just setting these scissors flush on the frame and cutting the batting right up to the frame. I don't want it to roll over because then it's going to create bulk on the top where I need to put a cap on that anyways, and that gets its own material. I don't want to sandwich all of those layers of material up because it can look lumpy and unorganized underneath. If you guys are here and you're learning, all I ask is that you tap the screen to like it. When I remind you, tap it as much as you can, for as long as you can. There's a little meter that will show up if you do it long enough, and it'll throw you a party at the end if you keep tapping until it reaches the end. You can usually get several likes out of that. Last time I was here for a few hours, we had like 18,000 people come throughout the course of the day, and we got 150,000 likes or something. I sold a lot of classes. We've done a lot of virtual upholstery workshops from that. So you guys are really, when you're doing that in here, you're doing a lot to sustain the upholstery industry by exposing more people to it who might be interested in taking it. Because when you guys are engaging in here and you're liking, it's sending my content out to people who are visually not like the way you look, but the way your digital profile is exactly like you. So people like you who are interested in my stuff, the algorithm's like, oh, who is like this person? Who also might like this? And then it sends it out to those people. And that does a lot for me to grow my business, to teach more people, and have them help grow their businesses. So I don't want to brag, but we're doing a lot of good work here. Perfect. So now this is all flat, and we have another layer of fabric that has to go on top of this. And that's what this looks like. So again, we want to keep those lines straight up and down because this is the final layer. And I think something that I might do, I'm going to, you're not going to see the inside of this. You're not going to see the raw edges of this fabric because this is going to get so many more mechanisms inside of it that cover it up. You're not going to see it. So you don't have to take too much care in making this look clean, but I also need this to look straight. So I'm going to try this technique where I'm putting this on inside out with the bottom side face down along to where I want to staple it. I'm going to stretch it out and staple a straight line there, and then I'm going to put a cardboard tack strip on top of that, and then I'm going to pull this piece up, and that's going to create a nice tight seam along the bottom where you don't see the unfinished edge of this project. I want to try and make it look as clean as possible, just in case someone gets in there and is like, oh, that upholsterer did a nice job making that as clean as possible. And for me, I feel like it's going to help me keep my straight up and down lines straight up and down, because even with pulling them, they can go side to side and look crooked, and you're not going to see the inside of this, but when you practice putting things on properly, this is a great practice area that nobody's going to see. You get better at doing it, and when you go to do it to the show fabric on the outside, you'll be able to see it. So we're going to get this looking as clean as we can. I'm going to drop a staple in the center first. If you've been here this whole time, you know that I like to stretch my fabric out across the surface and evenly distribute it before I stop dropping staples into it. So I'm going to put some strategic staples in it to keep it straight while I work out the details with the tack strip here, and then more permanent staples after I get it stretched out. So that's the next step. Anyone need a reminder of the before? That's what that looked like. This is what we're looking like now. It's looking much cooler, but still pretty traditional, a little more colorful. Okay, so first, middle staple. I need to make sure I have enough material that's going to wrap around the outside before I decide where that middle staple goes, and enough to wrap on this side here. That looks good. Stretch this back out, and I'm going to start stapling this with the face of this fabric down, so that when I staple across I can pull it up and the face will be on the front. I hope the way that I'm saying this stuff makes sense, because I feel like I just ramble on sometimes. The bottom edge of my fabric is square, so I'm using that as a guide to keep this line straight. Starting with the center, I'm going to put a diagonal staple. Instead of going straight like this, I tip it to make it diagonal because it covers more surface area and it keeps that straight line nice and flat. The trick to keeping it straight and nice and flat, though, is to keep your line of staples straight and at the same angle. That allows that flat area to be about as wide as my finger. If I needed to put trim down there, it would make it nice and flat for the trim. In this case, I need to put tack strip down there, so I need to make it nice and flat for the tack strip. So now, from this middle staple, at the same level that I just added that, I'm going to put this last piece of fabric down. This is a little long down here, so I'm just going to trim this up. I don't want to see it. If that makes sense. Okay, so I'm stretching this out across the bottom. Pretty taut to put a diagonal staple on that side, and now I'm going to do the same thing as far in as I can go on this side. Now, I don't want to take this off, but reaching this will be much easier if it were not there. Please be careful how many pieces you take off your recliner, because you may not ever get it back together again. See if I can get this in there. I gotta find the best angle. Again, I'm pulling from the center and I'm stretching this out, and I'm watching this whole fabric line to make sure that that stays straight. And I can get out of this. Cool, actually. Perfect. So now this is stretched out as taut as it can go, and that line looks nice and straight. I'm going to put a couple more anchoring staples in, but I'm not going to fill this with staples. It's unnecessary because I'm about to put a bajillion more in there. I'm just going to keep that line straight across and add a few staples in between the ones I just put in. That's looking good. Now, the staples that are here in this area didn't actually go in all the way, so I'm going to have to get a hammer to hammer that down. That's in another area. I'll be right back. So I think I can reach those areas better with a hammer, for sure. So I got the staple in there, but I couldn't get it in all the way without a hammer. So now I'm going to run a piece of cardboard tack strip along the bottom, so that when I put this up, that area looks like a nice clean seam. This is what cardboard tack strip looks like. You can get this on my website too, but if you don't have access to cardboard tack strip, you just kind of need not as thick as a moving box cardboard, but maybe as thick as a cereal box, or a little bit thicker, like a crackers box, a stiff cardboard, and you can cut it into strips and use it the same way that I'm using it. This is a 1/2 inch. This is ideal for the 1/2 inch crown staples that I'm using. When I put the staples in this tack strip, I'm putting them diagonal. That helps to keep it safe. If I put it straight this way, these ends would buckle like this, and you would be able to see that under your fabric. If I put them straight up and down, it creates humps between the staples, and you can see that under the fabric. So the way I want to put my staples in here is diagonal down the side, again to help keep that area flat and to cover more surface area. So I just tear this into place, and I'm running it from one side to almost all the way to the other, but just a little shy. I just rip it off. You can, if you're trying to create like tight corners, I have glue everywhere. If you're trying to create tight corners, you can miter the edges at 45-degree angles, and that will help you keep a tight corner. But I can start this. I'm going to put it in place, and I'm just like I do everything. I'm going to start from the middle and work my way out. And I'm going to push this as tight down as far as it'll go also to help create that straight edge. I'm going to put my stapler. And I'm going to get closer so you guys can see the angle of the staples. Maybe that'll be better. I hope that's a good angle. If you guys ever have better angle suggestions, put them in the comments. I'm happy to try anything out. Okay, stretching this out, make sure it reaches both ends the way it's supposed to. I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to put my staple diagonal just like this. And then I'm just going to follow this straight across. I don't want to do here and then there, because it doesn't push this down flat all the way, and you might end up with some extra cardboard in the middle. But I am going to go across, and each staple is going to be about a 1/2 inch apart. You'll see it as it gets closer to here. I can't see. That looks pretty good. Keeping it straight. We can test it, see if it's doing the job it's supposed to do. And you pull that up, that looks nice and straight. Now you can see the work still underneath there that I didn't get far enough down. I can cut that free with a razor blade and remove everything around it. Remove any staples or anything around it so you can't see it. It doesn't need to look this clean on the inside, because no one's going to see it, because no one's going to be able to take it apart when I'm done with it. But for me, it's going that little bit extra mile to make it look clean in front of you guys, to lead by example. That's the way to go. And I just work my way from the middle all the way back. Now here, the staple gun doesn't fit all the way back there, so I'm going to put some in, and then I'm going to hammer them down. Hammer. I have this tack hammer that has a silicone end on one end and a metal end on the other. This is for hammering decorative nail heads, because the silicone won't damage your decorative nail head, but I need to use a metal end for this. Now I think I'm ready to pull this up. Look at her. This has to wrap around this side. We'll figure that out as we go. That's looking pretty good. And then we'll just remove anything that sticks outside of here. I clearly wasn't considering this when I put the inside burlap panel on. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken it down that far and I would have left it straight. I was thinking, oh, this is going to get covered up, so I didn't think about it at all. But if I wanted, I could go in through and clean this up. Nobody's going to see the inside of this because there's going to be a seat in it. It looks like that. So that's what you'll be able to see. All right, let's take a minute to answer some questions, shall we? Before we start stapling the top. Oh, we've gotten considerably more likes since the last time I looked. Thanks for that. All right, what do we got? So the last question that I read off was, do you have any suppliers you recommend? Of course, me, silly. I have all these materials on my website. But I get my materials third-party shipped from my supplier, Active Foam. You can order from them directly, activefoam.com. If you don't have an EIN, like a small business or a DBA or something like that, you're paying full price for what they have. I get a wholesaler discount, which is half off. I upcharge a little bit more so that I can make money on the transfer there, but you guys get a discounted rate at these vendor prices, and anything you order on my website over $100 is actually free shipping, so it makes it worth it in the end. It's almost like getting like 30% off professional upholstery supplies in the end. This is basket weave fabric. Ray did an outstanding job on that couch. She sure did. Thank you for taking over tapping, whoever you are. My fingers are hurting. Thank you guys so much for tapping on the screen and growing up those likes. When you guys are engaging in here, they're sending my content out all over TikTok. And when I have an uptick in engagement on TikTok, that affects all my other platforms as well, for you to know for your own platforms. When you are creating relevancy for the material that I'm teaching you here on TikTok, that's happening on the internet, and TikTok doesn't happen outside of the internet. It's on the internet, just like Google, just like your website, everywhere else. When you are creating relevancy for this content here, it creates it all across the board on all my platforms, not just TikTok. On Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on my website. So you guys are really helping me out a lot. I want to learn how to do this. Where did you learn? Well, Lovey, I'm self-taught. I was in marketing for about 16 years before I got laid off, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and my toddler and I started pulling stuff out of the trash and working on it, making cool stuff for ourselves. But I was sharing it on Facebook when I was doing it, which led people right away to start asking me to make stuff for them, or they wanted to buy the stuff that I already made. And within a few months, that was my business. I didn't mean to start a business, but it happened so quickly that I couldn't help it. Within the first year, my husband quit his job to help me pull staples. Within a year of that, we were in our first brick and mortar. We had a brick and mortar doing furniture and fixture fabrication for more than 6 years. We did that as Clark's Fabrication. I think my TikTok's still up, so you can see some of the work we did under Clark's Fabrication. But we worked with primarily designers and architects. My husband was a metal worker and a woodworker, so we were a one-stop shop for these kind of projects. So it started off pulling furniture out of the trash and restoring it, selling it on Facebook before Marketplace was a thing, and then turning it into a small business, which we closed 2 years ago because we were working 7 days a week, 15-hour days, burning the candle at both ends, and we just couldn't do it anymore. We couldn't keep up. We couldn't hire anybody because nobody knew how to do this. There were no areas to train people how to do this, and it was too expensive for us to try and train in production. We tried. We lost a lot of money on the deal. So we closed our business, and after we closed, I dedicated my spare time to teaching upholstery so I could teach as many people how to do this as possible, because I have dreams of having my own shop again. I want to have what's like a tattoo shop for upholstery, where people can come in and pick their piece off the wall and their fabric off the wall and choose which materials they want, which artist they want, and then they can have a piece made custom for them at affordable rate, because I do believe that everybody deserves to have something really cool made for them, but we need to be able to make this more accessible. And to do that, I am using students to help work on upholstery projects that people might want to pay for, but they can't pay full price, or they don't want to pay full price. I have a sponsor student program where clients can pay for the cost of classes and materials, and the students get to take the classes for free, and they get my hands-on support walking it through. We had over 40 free classes this year so far. Not this year, because we're in February, but in the past 12 months. And we've turned over like 5 different projects, and so it's been a really great opportunity for the students, and it's been a great opportunity for me because I still get paid to teach them, and the client gets something very cool that is as professional as I made it myself. We use students who have completed at least one project. That's all they have to do. They had to have started and completed a project in my class. They don't even have to complete it in my class. They just have to complete it. And once they've shown that they can complete a project, that shows me that they have the drive to complete another one. And my students get to learn. I have students who have done several sponsored projects, so they get to learn lots of things over time on different skills. That's called craftsmanship. Thanks so much. Is that a sofa bed? No, it is a mid-century recliner, and this is just the base part of it right now. We're working on reupholstering that so we can put everything together. Brief recap for new people. Local Upholstery Club on Facebook. I have a free Facebook group, but it's a private group, but you can find it. There is a link to it in my bio. You can join that group if you're looking to learn upholstery for free. You can make posts if you're working on a project and you get stuck, and you can tag me in it. There's about 1,000 people in that group right now, a lot of which are professionals themselves and have all different types of experience that they bring to the table. No one's going to judge you in that group. No one's going to criticize you in that group. No one's even going to give you feedback if you don't ask for it. So it's a very supportive group, especially if you're coming from the DIY community, which is not always welcomed by the professional industry. We're here to teach you in the best way that we know how, to expose you to this industry, to get you amplified and excited about it, and to elevate you so that we can train you and hire you in our shops and we can keep these businesses going. I am located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. When is it necessary to use a strip? Whenever I'm assuming you're talking about this cardboard tack strip that we put in here. It's necessary to use that tack strip whenever you want to cover up your staple work and create a nice clean edge. Here, when I pull it up, it's going to look like it's sewn there, and you won't be able to see the staples that I put in there. And then these staples get put on the top of the frame, and this whole top of the frame gets covered with a cap. So at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to see any staples. I had no idea you could like one live multiple times. Yeah, you can like it a bajillion times, and I'd appreciate that if you do. Do you put on any type of grease or anything on the metal joints? Sometimes oil is required. This piece doesn't have rust on it, but it is dusty, so I'll clean out the dust and stuff. If there are mechanisms that aren't moving really well, sometimes you might want to try oil to get it to move. Sometimes it needs a deeper repair than that. So it's best to evaluate the situation before you get in too deep, especially before you add fabric and stuff, because oil can destroy fabric and accidents happen very easily. I have been trying to engage in the comments to help it get to the FYP to more people. Thank you so much, Weaponize Magway, and thank you so much also for being in there and answering questions when I can't. Do you teach online classes? I absolutely do, and they're live in person virtual classes. So they're not pre-recorded tutorials. I teach my classes Monday nights and Saturday afternoons. You can come to one of those classes. It's open to up to 6 people. You can bring your project to the Zoom, and I will help you get through that project from start to finish. It's a 3-hour-long class. And if you haven't taken a virtual upholstery class with me yet, which I just started offering the virtual lessons a few weeks ago, so you probably haven't. If you haven't, right now, if you use the code FREECLASS or first class at checkout, then it will take your $75 class down to $1. And each of these classes is 3 hours long. So you have 3 hours to work through your project with me giving you hands-on support, but you're also learning from everybody else who brings a project to the table. So last night we had 4 students who had 4 very different projects. One was a wrap and staple, one was a seat, so we had foam cutting, we had measuring, we had sewing. Like, there's so many different skills that you're going to learn from one class that might not even necessarily pertain to the piece that you're working on, but I find it to be a very encouraging experience. I knew that fabric looked mid-century. This fabric is actually modern, but made to look mid-century. Okay, so I'm ready to finish attaching this fabric. Let's get this a little bit closer so you guys can see more action. Yeah, that's not a good angle. Hold on. Alright, I think that's good. So now I need to get all this material pulled up straight and wrapped around the frame here. I have a lot of things making that difficult for me. First and foremost is the resistance of the fabric to meet this curve. So we do have some snips that have to be made to do that. So the first snip I'm going to make is going to be right in the ditch of what I like to call this elbow ditch. I'm going to make a straight cut right down one of these straight lines towards that ditch, but I'm going to stop just before I get to the frame. So I'm going to be kind of up here in this direction before I get to the frame, because it still needs to fold over and overlap here. This is my show fabric. If I cut too long here, you're going to see it on the outside, and I'm going to have to take out all of those staples and redo this whole thing all over again. And that is not something that I enjoy doing, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to be very careful and make very calculated decisions on where I make my cuts. By first pulling this up straight, I want to keep my line straight up and down. Even though no one's going to see it, this is a practice layer of fabric that I can make sure I get everything done. And then I'm just going to cut straight down that line to the frame. I'm not going to be able to hold that tight the whole time, so you can make a mark if you want to, so you don't lose it. I like to keep my eyeball on the spot that I'm aiming for. The more you practice this, the better you're going to get at like making these decisions as you cut your fabric. This is usually the most like painstaking decision someone has to make. So this is sort of the middle of my fabric. I'm evenly distributing this before I put all the staples in. I'm going to drop one staple here where I just made that cut to anchor that into place. Again, these staples go on diagonal. Don't hold your stapler like that. Diagonal staples cover more surface area. This is a fabric that tends to fray a lot, so it's going to cover more surface area, and it's going to keep this area flat for me for when I put my cap on. None of this material sticks up and makes it look lumpy. So again, I'm pulling this up nice and taut. Word of advice, don't hold your stapler like that. You will shoot yourself in the chest. Ask me how I know. One diagonal staple there just to hold it in place. You can use a temporary staple. A temporary staple is, instead of shooting flat into your project, tip it up to the side a little bit. That's going to put a gap between the staple and your fabric, so if you have to remove that staple with a staple remover, you're not going to damage your fabric. Okay, so we have that one. Now I want to pull up from this area, and I'm going to lock it down on the top of the arm. Here. So I'm stretching the material out this way to create a nice taut surface from side to side, but I'm also stretching it out up top to create a nice tight surface and this nice clean edge here at the bottom. So I'm really like pulling it diagonal up like this to stretch that area out. I might also take this material and stretch it this way to make sure that it's going to do the thing that I want it to do, which is create a nice flat clean surface across the front and keep my lines straight up and down. And it looks good to me. So I'm going to drop a temporary staple here at the top to hold it in place. And when I'm putting this material over here, I'm not overlapping it on the material on the other side. I have no choice but to overlap it on the burlap layer, the barrier layer that I put here. But I don't want to overlap it here. I have another layer of fabric that has to go over here, and it will put 3 layers of fabric on this side, which you might see sandwiched up on the outside, and I don't want to see that. So this is already finished. I'm not going to be like doing anything else to this side, so I don't want to add to this layer. I just want to keep it clean on the inside. My next staple from here to here is going to be in the middle, and you'll notice that's sort of in the middle of this curve too. That's going to help hold this curve, because if I were to pull at the sides here, it might pull that out straight, and then this wouldn't be able to staple down, and if I tried, it might rip it. So I'm going to anchor down the middle of that curve first, make sure that my material comes up straight here. I might rub it like this to get it to smooth up, and drop my next staple in the middle here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to work our way over this side. So here, I might pull this now in the corner, and I have a lot of material I have to like do a weird wrap and finish here that I just can't get to right now. But I need to straighten this out. I need to know that when I go to do whatever to this side, that it's gonna like fix it, but I'm not gonna do anything with that yet. I'm going to bring this up. Actually, I do have to do a staple to anchor that down because it's coming up. So hold on one second. One staple to anchor down the bottom. And then this, I'm pulling up to the top. You'll notice I didn't drop all the staples in down here because I haven't stretched this evenly across the surface yet. It's not evenly distributed. It's not ready for staples. If I started putting them here and it started to push all this fabric this way, I'm taking all these staples out. And I am not using temporary staples because I'm a dum-dum. So I'm just going to pull it straight here. Just like up here, I'm pulling it up, but I'm also pulling it out. So it's more like on a diagonal this way so that I can stretch out the surface of all this. And my lines are still straight up and down. They're looking great. I'm going to put my next staple right here. Okay. So now I can do all the in-betweens because all of this is looking good and nice and straight. Super clean. I'll go back through and I'll remove the stuff I didn't consider before I put that pack strip in later. But this is good for now. So I usually go in the center between the staples that already exist. So I have one here, one here. I'm going to put my next staple right here. I'm pulling this taut and over. If you pull too tight on an area that is getting human weight and there's not enough flexibility in the fabric to stretch and move when someone sits on it, it will tear away from the staples, particularly if it's a really fraying fabric like this one. The inside of this is not going to get any weight. 100% of this is covered up by the seat of the chair. So I'm not concerned about this. I want to pull it as taut as I can to make it look nice. And then drop my middle staple there. And now I can go in between, the middle in between here, and put my next one. Again, these staples are diagonal, and they can go diagonal both directions so long as they stay in a straight line. And then I'm going to put one in the middle down here. And now I can take and finish off this line of staples because I'm confident that all of these are in the right place. I've got no wrinkles where they need to be. So I'm still holding this in between the staples before I do that. That's gonna, sometimes if you have staples like one here, one here, one here, there's like a hump between there. And the way to equalize that hump is to just pull in between, in the middle of those, until you get it at the same tension. So now in the middle between here and here, I'm going to pull. And here my staples all are within a ½ inch of each other. And I'll get closer so you guys can see that for the rest of it. Be more over top. Oh, I'm going the wrong direction. I need to go up here. Okay. So I'm getting a little bit more resistance in this area. You can see even where the fabric starts to pucker up here. This fabric, one part wants to go this way, and one part wants to go this way. So I'm going to make a relief cut to oblige the fabric and make it behave the way I want to. For me, I'm just going up to where the staple already exists and no further. And now you'll see that these will lay flat down. And that's exactly what we want. So now I can go from this staple to this staple and pull all this down and run my diagonal staples within a 1/2 inch of each other all the way up this line. We've got about a 1/2 hour left. So thank God I'm not going to have to put this thing together in front of you people. I'm so scared to mess it up. We will come back next week and we'll finish this up for sure. Because I'm not going to be here any longer today. And Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, I do admin work. So we're going all the way up the corner here. Then we've got this top situation where we have to remove material like we did last time. I'm going to let this fold stay here where it wants and just kind of let it go loosey-goosey for now. And take my staples from the edge of the top down here. Now I need to hit the back up. I need this material to wrap around this way, but because the fabric is giving me resistance, because we have this barrier of the frame here, I can't wrap it around without it bulging out like that, and I don't want that. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to cut my fabric literally right along this frame, like right into the edge there. So actually right here on this edge, so that the cut will go right to here, and then the rest of this fabric that's here can flip this way, and this stuff can stay on the inside. So I'm going to sort of put this in the direction of the side here. Where did I put my scissors? And I'm holding it in place so that I don't cut too far. And then I'm just cutting right along the edge of the frame here. And I'm going to stop my cut right before I get to the frame on this side in the corner. And you can go a little bit at a time to make sure that you don't overcut. I'll show you guys what that looks like from this side a little bit. What you should have is enough material, if you need to sort of roll under there and clean off that edge. Not necessary for this. All of this is getting covered up with something. But this is a practice cut, and this is how you would cut around a barrier on a chair if this were showing with your top fabric. So you should have enough material to roll under there to clean up that frayed edge. So this goes this way. This is allowed to stay on the inside, and I'm going to start stapling this up here. But first, I'm going to drop the one staple at the bottom. Next, I'm going to come up here to the top, because I don't just need to stretch it over the side here, but I need to stretch it going top to bottom. So I'm pulling it out this way, but I'm also pulling it up so that from this staple to this staple, it's still nice and taut. Now I can go all the way down that edge and fill in those gaps. I'm going to do the center first because it's just a long distance and I don't want to mess up. And now I can go between here to here. And from this staple all the way down to the bottom. Diagonal staples, a 1/2 inch apart. Perfect. Now we can address all of these concerns. First, I want to remove some material on the whole piece. Everything excess that's out this way that we don't need. And I make this cut within a 1/2 inch of the row of staples. I don't want to go too close to the staples because it's too easy to fray. I give myself about a 1/2 inch so that it doesn't fray. And I might notice it sticking up in this area because, one, I missed a couple of staples, but two, I'm getting resistance on the fabric, so if I make little snips, it'll help lay flat. So first, gap. And then make 6. And that allows all that fabric to sit flat. I did miss another. You don't need to use staples to flatten that out. That's ill-advised because your frame it only has a finite amount of space for staples and nails, and the more you put in it, the worse you affect the structural integrity of the piece. Even though staples are small, you don't want to put any more than you need in. So I'm cutting off all of this excess. There's some resistance here, so make a couple snips so it can lay flat. I'm cutting this all the way up to the top to get rid of this. And I just want to get rid of the bulky material so that I don't have to wrestle with it. I'm also going to cut down this way where everything is laying flat. This right now is the only piece that I need to wrestle with, and the rest of this can come off. Now the back panel of this chair is covered by the final back panel of fabric, but the top arms of this chair is covered by a cap. So I need to be mindful of everywhere I'm putting my staples and how cleanly I need to lay them based on how the final fabric goes on to make sure that I can cover up my work. 99% of upholstery is being able to cover up your work. So now I have this bit of material, and like we said before, we don't want this to fold in on itself. We don't want this to layer over itself. We only need one layer of fabric here. We don't need these folds. You're going to be very tempted to just fold this over and staple it because no one's going to see it. But this is 1, 2, 3 layers of fabric here, and we only need one layer of fabric here. So the first cut I'm going to make is going to be right up to the corner edge here, up the seam of staples that I just made. And then the next one I make is going to be on the same side as that staple. And I can put one staple here to flatten that out. And now all of this extra material can go away. And anything sticking up outside of that can go away. Because I need to keep this flat and I need to keep it consistent, and that's how we do that. Next up, over here at 142, we're not even going to get the other side of this upholstery today, but while you guys are here, we've only got 15 more minutes. I'm going to take some time before we do these last cuts to answer some questions. We have 15 minutes, so if you guys could tap the screen as much as possible while you're here and giving as many likes as you can. I'm not concerned about the gifts. I think it's lovely that you guys give gifts, and I'm very grateful for them, but I get fractions like 0.01 pennies of whatever gift you send, and I only looked into sending gifts once, and it was like $1 or something to send one of those. While that's not a lot of money for you, I only get a fraction of that penny, and TikTok gets the rest. So you don't need to send me gifts. I do appreciate it. I'm grateful for it. But you can create more value for me by tapping on the screen as violently as possible. Because when you do that, it sends my content out to the For You page, and more people like you can find me. Because it finds people based on your interests, because you're engaging with me, and it creates a relevancy, and it tells people that my content is relevant to you, and it might be relevant to people like you. So it shoots it out that way. And it doesn't just activate my TikTok page, it activates my Instagram page and my Pinterest page and my Facebook page, and helps people find me all across the internet. Even my website gets a lot of action from this. So I really appreciate it when you guys take the time to tap on the screen. The goal is to get to 100,000 likes before 2. I don't know if we'll make it because that's like 50,000 more likes, but I do believe that you guys can get me there. So if you're here and you're learning something from me, all I ask is that you tap on the screen right now whenever I remind you, which is not super often, as violently as possible. A little pink heart's going to show up here in the upper left hand corner, and it's like on a meter, and it makes its way to the end. When it gets to the end, there's fireworks, it throws your party. It's great. You benefit from it, I benefit from it. It's a lot of fun, so I appreciate when you guys are engaging in here. Oh, it is Mardi Gras today. Happy Mardi Gras. All right, I'm just going back through the questions. And we didn't get too many more since the last one, which is good. Someone asked if I teach online classes. I do teach online classes. I teach virtual upholstery workshops that are in person, like not in person, but there's Zooms where you're working with me directly. It's not a pre-recorded tutorial. You get to sit in a class with me for 3 hours and I will walk you through step by step how to finish your project. I will see what I have and gather stuff for your online class. Fantastic. So the first class you could take for $1 right now if you use code FIRSTCLASS at checkout. I teach my virtual upholstery workshops on Monday evenings and Saturday afternoons. Just type first class, all one word, in the coupon code area at checkout, and it will take $74 off of your $75 class and make your class just $1. But it only is going to work for one class. Let's see. I guess coming across this because I want to learn this. Well, Fuzzy Fluff, I want you to learn this. We need you to learn this because there is a high demand for skilled upholsterers and a low supply. So we're trying to create a higher supply so not only can you take on some of this work and make a little bit of money off of it, but we can build businesses from this as well. And then maybe one day I can go back into business doing this because I'll be able to hire someone. So I have a free private group on Facebook called the Local Upholstery Club that you can join. You can join me here on Tuesdays, usually from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.-ish, sometimes 11 a.m., depending on how fast I can get on after dropping my kids off at school. But you can also learn through those virtual upholstery workshops. My grandmother used to do upholstery. If she wanted to change on her couch, voila! Yeah, I wish I could do my own stuff. I don't have time to do it, plus I would have to watch my kids and pets destroy it in front of my very eyes, and I'm not created for that kind of disappointment. Hi, Mitra, how's it going? Nancy, my step-grandma, was too. She always had the best upholstery and drapes. That was Weaponized Mogwai responding, sorry. I am going to try to only do the questions because you guys also have your own conversations in here, and I love it. I love that you guys are engaging with each other. Happy Mardi Gras to everyone. I will be eating punchkis today. I don't know anything about them, but I do know that they're delicious. I would freaking love to do this. I would love for you to do this, Royal. I do this for free on Tuesdays, Tutorial Tuesdays. You can join my local upholstery club Facebook group for free, and if you're working on something from home, you can post pictures in a video, tag me in it, and I'll help you. We have a lot of professionals in that group who are willing to help as well, and a lot of people who are just really freaking supportive and are really great cheerleaders, and so they're going to help keep you on task, keep you accountable, give you feedback if you want it or ask for it, and be encouraging. So nobody in there is like, oh, you're DIY. I've found that the professional industry is not very welcoming to the DIY industry, and I'm self-taught, and I know a lot of us are learning that way because there's just no access to the education. So I want to create a successful, creative, supportive environment for you, and you'll find that in the local upholstery club. I've done a little bit of my own, but I want to learn more of the right way. So I learned the right way, the hard way. There were not tutorials online when I started teaching myself, so I taught myself mostly through reverse engineering, but I could watch videos of people doing it, and that really helped me watch, those repetitive motions and figure out this and that and the next thing. But I learned more through hands-on experience and making mistakes, and getting it wrong and getting it right over the course of the past 12 years I've been doing this than I have from other people's tutorials. That being said, that's why I started teaching workshops, because a lot of people don't have support when they're teaching themselves along the way, and a lot of teachers don't know how to communicate that information, and I'm coming from the same background as you are coming from. I call my tools things like ka-chunk, so you're not going to hear too many conventional professional terms that you don't understand, but I do have a deep understanding of the professional aspect of it now through all my experience, so I can translate between both worlds for you, because I did do furniture fabrication and restoration professionally for the better part of a decade, and now I'm just teaching because we need more people doing this. Where's the best place to buy outside fabric for cushions for a patio set? SaleRite? SaleRite. Go to SaleRite.com. They're a fantastic resource for everything, not just upholstery supplies, foam and fabric and things of that nature. I also carry those things, but SaleRite has great tutorials to show you how to use their products, and I think they specialize more in auto marine upholstery supplies, so you're going to find a lot of outdoor stuff, things that can weather the weather on their website. And they're very cool. They're very supportive of the DIY community. They work with Kim's Upholstery, which is another great online resource to learn upholstery. It's a really great place. What is the ideal outdoor fabric use or to use called? What is the ideal outdoor fabric to use called? Like the type. So outdoor fabric, but there's also Sunbrella is a really popular brand of outdoor fabric. It's UV protected so it doesn't fade in the sun. It's also treated so it doesn't get stain treatment. But Sunbrella isn't the only brand of that, and I couldn't tell you what the names of all the brands are. It does go by outdoor fabric, but there are like some top rated brands that are much better to use, and I know that Sunbrella, while difficult to work with and sew, is a very popular, well-established, trusted brand where you can buy outdoor fabric. Joann's carries some Sunbrella fabric, but they also carry other outdoor fabrics. Just make sure it's not only treated, but UV protected, or else the color's going to fade in the sun. And we've only got 10 minutes. Andrew Zek, I don't know how to say your last name, but thank you for being here. Andrew's a great guy, and you should follow him too. He's in the comment section right now. Andrew, you're in my group on Facebook, aren't you? He gives a lot of great advice all over the place. You should definitely follow him on TikTok. Let's see, awesome. Widely known as outdoor fabric. That's what I wondered, yes. And then Andrew says acrylic-based fabric typically is outdoor fabric and can be, sorry, I don't know if that paused while I did that. Acrylic-based fabric can be used outdoors as well. So, guys, I've only got 9 minutes left, and I think we're just about done with the front of this. So let's finish this side, and then we'll call it quits for the day. If you have more questions, make sure you put them in the comment section right now. While I'm doing this last, I think I got 3 cuts and a wrap and a staple. Please just be in the comment section tapping your little hearts away, because that's going to help drive my content to more people like you, and more people like you is who I want to find to teach this amazing trade to, because not only will you find it useful for your own projects, but if you're needing to make a little bit of extra money on the side, the second you put a staple remover in your hand, everyone you know is going to want to pay you to do this. They don't care if you know how to do this. When I started doing this 12 years ago, the first time that I did it, someone was like, I'll pay you to do this, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and they're like, I don't care, you can practice on mine. That's across the board. Designers do it, architects do it, residential clients do it. People know when you're learning and they want to help you practice do it, because they know they're going to get cheap rates. Upholstery is super expensive, and if they can see anything that you've done, they'll know just about how skilled you were. We had designers send us lowball projects to practice on to get better for big ones, and now our stuff has been on the covers of magazines. We have stuff in restaurants all over the Metro Detroit area, Ann Arbor area, Ypsilanti area. Really cool opportunities came from learning through the experience while in production and on a professional level. A lot of people helped elevate us throughout that process. Douglas says, where are you located? I am located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. You can come to my in-person classes here. I teach 4 days a week on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays. All my classes are buy 3, get 1 free. That's for my in-person and my virtual workshops. So you could come out here for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday class and only pay $225 for all those classes. Stay the weekend. I know some really cool places for you to stay. We had a handful of people out here this past weekend doing that. So you can take this 4 consecutive classes for $225 and really spend some time getting through a project. And I also will be going on tour this spring and summer. I'm looking for maker spaces in the United States who are willing to host my weekend upholstery workshops, so that maybe I can come to a town near you. If you're wondering if I can come to a town near you, what I suggest is you Google maker spaces near me. Find a maker space or an event space that's similar. Any place that can house me and my tools, or might even have tools of their own. Maker spaces have tools of their own, so it makes it easier for me to travel. I can go to further away places that I don't have to drive to. If you connect me with a maker space near you and they reach out to me and they ask about me coming there, and they let me know that you're the one who referred them, if I come out there to do a weekend upholstery camp, you'll get to attend that camp for free all weekend long. So what I'm asking you guys to do is get out there, find a makerspace, call them up, tell them who I am, tell them you want to see upholstery workshops out of their space. They'll reach out to me and I will set it up. If we get it set up, you get to come and take the whole weekend upholstery workshop for free. We did 3 weekend upholstery retreats last year. 2 of them sold out. It was a 5-night, 4-day stay where you could come out to the bed and breakfast in my area. It was the Newton of Ypsilanti is a historical mansion in the downtown Ypsilanti area, which is just outside Ann Arbor, where this makerspace is. We stayed there for 5 nights. We had all of our meals chef prepared, breakfast and dinner, and then we had lunch here at the shop. But for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had 3 8-hour days of intensive upholstery workshops where not only did you learn from your projects, you learned from everybody else's projects, but we also had guest speakers like Sharon O'Connor of Vintique Upholstery, who is also one of the mainstay upholsterers on the show Money for Nothing. She came as a guest speaker to talk about her experiences in upholstery in the UK and how different they are here in the United States. We had Madam of Making, who is an amazing influencer on Instagram. She does a lot of DIY stuff, upholstery, wallpaper. She makes anything. She's incredible. She's super cute too. I have a huge lady crush on her. She's really cool. Follow her. She came on as a guest speaker. She had book recommendations, tool recommendations. That was a lot of fun. We had Folio Fabrics, who is a fabric company, come on and talk about different types of upholstery fabrics. We go on field trips where we visit Discount Fabric Outlet, which is a fabric shop kind of near me, within an hour of me, that we drive out to. They sell all of their discontinued designer upholstery fabric for $8 a yard. So we go out there and do that. Like, it's just a lot of fun. We not only do we do upholstery, we hang out, we meet people who are into the same things that we are, which is upholstery, and everybody is really helpful and encouraging, and I still have group chats with all of the groups that have visited me last year. So I'm hoping to take that experience on the road this year, make it cheaper for you. Last year it was $1,600 a ticket. This year we're going to truncate the experience a little bit into a 3-day experience. So we're going to hang out on Friday and do the hangout thing. Saturday and Sunday are full days of upholstery, and hopefully make the cost of that less than half of what we were charging before, to make it a little bit more accessible to people. I remember that place as a kid. I hope you're talking about Discount Fabric Outlet. That's my happy place. Okay, guys, it's 2 o'clock. I got 2 more minutes here. It's almost 2 o'clock. Send me some likes. We're almost to 100,000 likes. I really think we can get it here in the next 3 minutes. While you're tapping, I'm going to finish up these cuts over here. I'm going to get close up so that you can see it. Really pushing to get to 100,000 likes in the next 3 minutes. So you guys are going to have to go nutso on tapping that screen. Just tap it as violently as you possibly can, as fast as you can, for as long as you can. A little meter is going to show up in the corner, cute little heart, and it's going to make its way to the end. When it gets to the end, it throws you a party. I get bonus points for that. You guys are doing a lot to help me spread the word and get more people in this industry. 74,000. I think we can do it. I think we're going to do it. Oh, the castle? Are you talking about... Do I know you, Suze? Was someone talking about the castle in Tampa? Because I used to hang out there. Okay, let's do this. Let's do these cuts. You guys keep liking. Just keep liking till we're done. And then when we're done, we'll see how far we got. So all of this material needs to kind of wrap around the inside here. And then I have a little bit that needs to come down here. So we're going to make some strategical cuts. This material has to come around this way. This is where I am getting hung up on this barrier and this barrier here. So my first cut is actually going to come from the side here straight towards this top of this wood. It's going to go a little bit above it because I need a little bit, I need the material to like sort of wrap around here. Hold on, that's not where the cut's going to go. I need all this material to come this way. I'm going to make a cut first, straight down this way. Sometimes you don't know where the cut is going to go until you have an opportunity to look at all the angles. So this is going to come down this way, this over this way. This just needs to staple over here a little bit. This needs to wrap down this way. So my next cut is going to be for this ditch here, so that some can come this way and some can come that way. And I'm stopping right before I get to the frame because I need it to overlap. Now all of this area is covered up by a footrest. You're not going to see any of this wrap and staple on this side, but I still need to create my clean edges in here, which is why I'm doing it. You guys are almost there. We're at 80,000 likes. I believe in you. So I'm going to put a couple staples on this side at that diagonal angle. This I'm going to have pulled back just a little bit here, just so it doesn't like fray out on the edge. All of this is getting covered up by a cap, so you won't see any of this underneath. But I don't want any of these materials to overlap each other and create a lump. I want it to stay as clean as possible. Whoop. So now, stick those there. Cut off these little flaps. And this piece that wraps around the inside can get stapled down to the top. Let's see what's going on here. This is looking good. So now I need the rest of this material to kind of go off in that direction, but I'm getting resistance up here in this corner. So I'm going to make another snip just down to the corner of that frame. None of this has to make sense to you guys. When you're working on your own projects, if you're unsure of which direction to cut that in, the things you want to think about are, one, which direction does the fabric want to go in? Where is it getting you resistance? Here I'm getting resistance down in this corner because some of the fabric wants to go down and some of it wants to go up and over to the side. So you have to know where it's giving you resistance, and you also have to know where to trim, where you're not going to be able to see that cut on the outside of your fabric. So you don't have to like know the fundamentals to do this. You have to understand the why and how. And sometimes you don't get that unless you've experienced cutting it wrong in the first place. But try and track what you're doing along the way. Take pictures of this area before you even take the fabric off of it, because it's going to show you exactly where it needs to be cut. Take the time to think about how things have to wrap around things and cover things before you make your first move, and that's going to help prevent you from making a cut you didn't mean to make. So this is going to get cut off all completely down the edge. I don't need any of that material. That is going to flatten out on the inside. I'm going to get a staple. And then this I can pull out nice and flat, staple to the side. And now I can remove all the excess material from here and along the side, and that's it. So that's the inside of it. We still have the other side to do. I'm going to do that before our next class, before our next tutorial Tuesday. But this is what we were able to accomplish today. I have a little flap that can get removed down here. I'm just going to lock it down first. And come back through with the scissors and remove all the excess. Now before I go, we'll put everything in so you guys can see what it looks like. Now I'm not 100% sure because I didn't take this apart. I have my students do that for me. This goes here. Let's get this taller so you can see it because it's kind of tipped back. We are at 87,000 likes. We're almost there, you guys. I'm okay with 90. I'll be good with 90. And this goes right here. Look at her. That looks so cool. That's awesome. And then this gets, the footstool looks like it's going to end up going flush with the bottom of this here, like straight across. And then the arms, let's see if I can get rid of that. So So this is what we're going to work on next Tuesday, assembling all this. It'll be ready for assembly. I'm only grabbing one of these for time, just to show you. This goes up here. This arm, I don't know if it goes, I think it goes something like this. I have to refinish the wood. I have to refer back to, it goes all the way down. It goes all the way down. So this is the cap to the front of that. I'm glad I was able to see that. I can see now, just by doing that this area might need to be covered by a piece of fabric too, just in case you can see that through the crack. I need to make sure that I get full coverage of my work here. So this goes on like this, and then this goes on like that. And that's what this chair is going to look like when it's all done. There'll be a front footrest on it too. I think it looks cool. I'm going to show you what that picture looks like again for reference. That's what it looks like when it's all finished. I used the same, I didn't use the pattern, I made my own pattern, but I reupholstered it the same way that I took it back together. That sentence didn't make sense. That's okay. I reupholstered it in the same way I took it apart. And this goes like this. I can tell by looking at the back of this, I've already covered up some pretty important holes with fabric that I'm going to have to uncover next time when we're going to do this. But that's what I looked like before. And that's what it's going to look like when it's done. We're almost there. We just have to finish the inside of this, and then we're going to reassemble it next Tuesday for Tutorial Tuesday here on TikTok. I'm typically here from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today I didn't jump on until 11, so I usually post a promo to let you know what time I'm going on. I was a little late today, but I'm so happy you guys are here today. 95,000. Well, now I have to hang out until you get to 100. We're almost there, and I think you guys see it in more real time than me. I just see it sort of as it comes back through. So let me see what we got in case you guys have questions. So while we're here, we're at 96,000. Just tap, 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 tap while I go through this as much as you can, as many of you as you can, so we can get up to 100,000 before I get out of here. Andrew says, big fan of Kim, always pointing people over to your classes. Thank you, Andrew. And you guys should go follow Andrew on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you can find him. He's a very supportive professional who's been in the industry for a long time. Professionals have not always been kind to the DIY crowd. Andrew is one of the good guys. So go follow him on TikTok and everywhere else you can find him. Where are you located? I am in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I teach in-person workshops here 4 days a week. I also teach virtual upholstery workshops 2 days a week, and those are in-person, not in-person, they're on Zoom, but you're working directly with me. So I'm giving you hands-on support through your project. Each class is 3 hours long. Each class is $75. Right now you can take a virtual upholstery workshop, your first one, for $1. So just use code FIRSTCLASS at checkout and it will discount your $75 class to $1. So you can test out to see if this is even a format that is good for you to learn in. You were here with me today learning upholstery tips while I worked on my own projects. On these virtual upholstery workshops, you bring your project to the table and I help you from start to finish with all of the skills that you need to do it. You can even come in if you just want to learn deep button tufting, or if you don't even have a project and you're just curious, you can come in and learn from other people's projects. The $1 offer gives you a really good opportunity to try it before you buy it. Hey friend, love the hair. Thank you. I feel like I spent too much of my life without blue hair. I highly recommend it. You learn more from mistakes. That's absolutely true. Deb said everything back here is looking great. Thanks, Deb, and thanks for joining me today. You finally made it. I really appreciate it. Love the headrest. Thank you so much. And we did it. We're over 100,000 likes. You guys can give your hands a break. I so much appreciate you guys doing this. This is the second time that we got over 100,000 likes. I'd never done that before last week. I do feel the momentum growing on these lives and in my classes, so I feel like I'm this close to being able to go back with some trained professionals and open up my own shop again and be able to do this for clients again, which is something that I really love to do. So when you guys are in here engaging in the comments, you're literally driving people to my classes, which is training them how to do this skilled trade, which is allowing not only them opportunities to make more money, but allowing me to go back into business to doing the thing I love. But I'll tell you what, I really, really love teaching. It's fine if I never end up getting back into my business again, so long as I get to do this for the rest of my life. I think I'll be happy. What kind of equipment and furniture do we need for the first class? That's a really good question. So if you bring a piece, you can bring any piece you want. I suggest for your first pieces you bring something like small and simple, but I also like a good wingback. I think that you can learn every fundamental on a wingback and you can apply it to future projects. So a wingback is a really great first starter project, or a small like accent chair is really good. Ottomans are really good. Headboards are really good to start with. The tools you need, you don't need a lot of fancy tools to start. What I will say is that there's a lot of tools that are going to make your job easier, but all you need is a stapler, a staple puller, some scissors, and a needle and thread, really, to be able to do upholstery. But there's a lot more intricacies than that. All of those tools are very prehistoric type tools that make the job more difficult. They put more impact on your body, so it hurts your hands worse, it hurts your shoulders worse, it hurts your legs and chest and all of that stuff worse to use more manual tools. So pneumatic stapler I highly recommend. You can get a good pneumatic stapler for Upholstery Staples, which is a 22 gauge staple, for under $100 online. Mine is a $400 stapler, and it's never done me wrong. I've had it for 10 years. It is the best thing I ever had. Makes the job real fast. Electric staplers are good too, but you can't adjust the pressure. So in situations where your wood is harder or softer, you can't adjust the pressure, and it might either blow through your fabric or material or not even get in there enough to hold it down. So I suggest pneumatic stapler if you can. Everything else is like scissors, staple, puller, pliers. That's it. That's all you'll need. You don't need a sewing machine. A lot of projects, even wingback, you can do a whole wingback without sewing one stitch of anything. You don't need to know how to sew to do this. You specifically don't need any experience doing any of these things to learn how to do upholstery from me. I can teach you how to do this if you've never removed a staple in your life. If you can follow a recipe, you can follow along and you can learn how to do this. I promise you. How thoughtful for all learners. Yeah, I'm trying. Whoa, I got a finger cramp. Me too, girl. I get them all the time. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Thank all of you guys so much for coming on here and participating today. It was really exciting. It was a lot of fun to be with you. Can you tell us real quick how to determine how much fabric to buy for our project? Yes, I will do that real quick. Very quickly. But only if you're tapping the like button the whole entire time. So I'm about to show you how to measure for fabric. I'm going to get a different piece up here so that I can show you more clearly, because this one's in pieces. But while I'm doing that, you guys got to tap the screen. I know we already hit our goal, but I mean, you're here, you might as well be tapping it. Last look of the before. If you decide you want to take a virtual workshop from me, you can email me pictures of the project you want to start with, and I'll give you a list of everything you'll need for that first class. Also, it's better if you bring a stripped down piece of the class. You get a lot more out of your time that way. But if you've never stripped down a piece and you don't know where to start, you don't know where to stop, it's a really good opportunity to learn that along the way. That's what I'll help you with. This might be familiar to some of you. This is a project we've been working on the past few lives. This is a really simple chair. It's got 3 panels of fabric on it. It's got the top panel, the seat panel, and then the panel on the back, which is a surprise. Looks like that. This is a piece that I'm almost finished upholstering, but I'm going to use this as an example to show you how to measure for fabric. Upholstery fabric typically comes in bolts that are about 54 inches wide. They might be less, sometimes you'll find them more, not very often, but it's important for you to know how wide it's going to be because then you'll know how many panels you can get out of the width. When you're first starting to do upholstery, I tell you don't worry about getting extra panels out of the width. Assume you can only get one panel out of the width of fabric, and that'll make sure that you have enough extra material in case you make mistakes. So I'm going to show you how to measure for excess material in case you make mistakes if you're brand new. If you're not brand new and you're good at math, you can do the math to decide how many panels you can fit in the width of a 54-inch piece of fabric. There are a lot of intricacies about fabric to consider when you're doing this. First, I'll tell you the measurements, and then I'll tell you what you need to consider after you make those measurements. So this has 3 panels of fabric. When I'm telling new students how to measure for fabric, I'm telling them to only measure the lengths, not the widths. We're going to measure all the lengths, add them up, and divide by 36, and that's going to tell you how many yards you need to upholster your project. That being said, I upholstered 4 of these chairs with 2 yards of fabric. I don't recommend it because it was a tight squeeze, but I did conserve fabric and do 4 of these chairs with just 2 yards. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure the top panel. I measure that from the tallest point, from the top to the bottom. It's narrower on the sides, so I want to measure it from the longest point here. So I measure up here at the top to the bottom down here. If your chair is fully covered, you're measuring from where it gets attached, which would be in the back, down through the pull-through spot, and it usually attaches to the back of the frame or the top of the frame up here. So I need to measure for this piece from here to here, but you might be measuring from the back all the way down to the bottom of the frame. So for me, this piece, and I need you guys to keep track of the math on this, is 15 inches tall. Now I need material to hold on to up here and material to hold on to down here to be able to stretch it across. That's material that I cut off after it's attached, which is why I tell people don't use the patterns on your chair to create the patterns for your new chair. You're putting new material on this. It's not going to be the same shape. Ideally, it would be fluffier than a chair that's been sat in for 50 years. So this material is not going to fit your piece once you take it off. So you need to measure for excess material so that you can hold on to it to put it on. For me, I need at least 2 inches of fabric to hold on to in order to be able to stretch it across my frame. So I need 2 inches on this side and 2 inches on this side. And since my measurement from here to here is 15 inches, I add 4 inches so that I know how tall that needs to be. And that puts me at 19 inches. So for here, I need a 19-inch pattern. Write that down. For the side, I attach, this has a similar decorative edge in the back. So I measure from the back here, from this edge, all the way up to the front to this edge, and I add 4 inches so I can hold on to it on either side. So here, I'm actually even starting at the 2-inch mark down here. I'll bring it all the way down to the front, from the middle to the back, because the sides are more narrow because they round back here. This is the longest piece, so that's the part of the frame that I want to measure. From the back to the front here, plus 2 inches, is 27 inches. So I have 19 inches plus 27 inches, and then I have my back panel, which I can measure from the top of the back of the chair here to the bottom of the back. And that is also 19 inches. So we have 19 inches plus 19 inches is 38 inches. Plus, what was this one? 27. So 57, 64, 65. 65 inches of fabric to cover this chair. So that is 65 divided by 36. You guys can do the math on that, but it's not quite 2 yards, just under 2 yards. But what that tells me is I can round up to the nearest yard and assume that I would need 2 yards on this chair. Now, I just told you that I did 4 of these chairs with 2 yards of fabric, and that's because I'm an experienced upholsterer and I know how to measure my panels out of the width to make sure I have enough. But what I will tell you is I only had 2 yards of the color of fabric that I wanted to use, and I thought of the best way to make it work. I do not suggest you only order just enough material when you're first getting started. You have to be good at math and you have to be experienced at pattern making in order to rely on those measurements. And when you're just getting started, you just don't have that yet. You don't understand how to manipulate the materials. You don't know the kind of stretch, everything that you're going to need to make it work. So always overestimate how much you're going to do. So this was just under 2 yards. I would like raise that up to 2 yards just to make sure. If there was a pattern on this fabric and these two panels touched each other, like they came like this, I have to consider the pattern repeat. Now on this is the fabric that's on the back of this chair. This pattern repeat is 18 inches, or it's 21 inches, and I can't even like see the rest of the pattern. It would be up this way, and from here down, you can see this is part of the same pattern here and here. What you would do is you would measure from the middle of that pattern down to the middle of where that pattern appears again, and that tells you how wide that pattern repeat is. You need to know the pattern repeat because if you're pattern matching down the front of your chair or the side or whatever, you're going to need to add that amount of inches everywhere where there's a seam where that fabric touches. Because everywhere where you have to cut through that pattern, when you have it meet again, you have to move up or down the fabric to find that part of the pattern again to get it to match. So everywhere where there's a seam, here it would just be one separation here. I would need to add 21 inches because my pattern repeat is 21 inches. If this were front seat seam here, because there's a box cushion that goes down this way, I need to add 21 inches here, and I need to add 21 inches here where the seam is going to be again, so that pattern can continue to match down the front. So if you're ordering pattern fabric, you're going to be ordering considerably more fabric than you need in order to be able to meet that pattern match. Senko stapler is good too. I've never heard of them, but that sounds good. What kind of compressor do you recommend or have? I have a big air compressor because I teach 6 people at a time in my classes. I got my first air compressor on Craigslist for 35 bucks. So long as it's running and it works. What you want to be sure of is you check your tool for how much PSI is required to operate it. So you can't just get any air compressor for any pneumatic tool. Paint sprayers need a specific air compressor, so if you're getting an air compressor and you also paint your furniture and you want to spray it, check out the PSI for the paint sprayer. It's going to require more PSI than your stapler is going to require. You won't be able to use that air compressor for a paint sprayer because it's going to be continuing to fill itself up over and over and over again to meet the recommendations of that sprayer, and your air compressor can only run so many times before the engine quits. And you can service it, you can have it rebuilt, you can oil it, but there's a finite number of times that it'll run before it just quits on you. So you want to make sure that your air compressor can handle your tools, and you can find that out on your tools. Mine, let's see. This is my $400 stapler, and this has the information for the PSI right here on this label, which I keep it on. And for me, it says do not exceed 90 PSI. And I actually keep my air tank at about 70 PSI when I have 5-6 hoses hooked to it at one time, and it works perfectly fine. And you're going to need to adjust your pressure accordingly for different fabric types, for different wood types, to make sure it doesn't blow through or embed itself too deeply. So those are all things you want to consider. The chair was actually sun faded to orange and not green. That's exactly right. So this was the before of the chair. It was orange. I knew this because when I took the buttons off and I removed this, everything underneath was orange, but the sun faded it to green. I love that chair. Thank you so much. There's going to be 4 of these. And I just finished, if you go to my YouTube, you'll see the New Chair New Year Challenge, which is a 5 series of these Tutorial Tuesdays that I did, completing 2 captain's chairs that go with this set. So you can see what those look like. Those are fully upholstered, so a lot more intricacy and detail went into completing them. So there's a lot of great content over there for tutorials for you to learn. But those are uncut live versions of what you see here on Tuesday. They're 4 or 5 hours long, so you have to get through them. I am working on breaking those down to smaller tutorials, but everyone wants to watch them, and I have a full-time marketing gig. I'm a marketing consultant full-time, and I do this on the side. So I don't have a lot of time to edit videos, but if you want to watch it, the full 4 or 5 hours of these are available over on YouTube. This one will be available later on this week. You'll be able to watch it over on YouTube as much as you want, and you'll be able to just, scoop through it. I thank you guys so much for writing those numbers down. I was pretty impressed with myself. Sue says 2 yards. I might get 2.5 yards to be careful. Exactly. I always round up. And you know what? I have a lot of really cool extra material from all the projects that I do. And because I do these online and people follow them, they get excited about them, I typically will make like memorabilia from the scraps, like pillows or things like that, and sell them on my website so that you can purchase them there. Are you putting double welt or nail head trim? On this, I'm going to put a single welt. I've hid my staples very well. There's no welt on it at all. But I really streamlined that look so that I could get a really sharp single welt on there. This is, I don't think I have any of the green fabric. So this is the bright green that I was hoping I was using. We had a poll over on my Facebook page that you could have helped me choose which fabric. This is the one I wanted. We had only 2 yards of it, and I had to make 2 yards stretch across 4 chairs. We didn't have enough for the welt, so I had to do something else for the welt. I had another one of this color, but the dye lot was slightly different, so it was a little darker. So we're doing the welt in the slightly darker green. My goal is to make it look like leaves on the front. I want it to look plant-like to go with the rest of the set. Great info on the air compressor and tools for the jobs. Thank you, guys. I saw a compressor explode on here, and now I'm freaked out about them. Jesus Christ, don't tell me that. I've never seen a compressor explode. I didn't know they did that. I keep my maintenance, but I'm in a maker space here, and so I feel like it's in a safe place. I'm not worried about it exploding, but do a little bit of research on what would prevent that from exploding. I've literally never heard that before in my life, so that's news to me. Thank you for sharing. I'll find your YouTube page. You can also follow me here on TikTok, on Facebook. I also have a private group on Facebook called the Local Upholstery Club. You can join that. You can work on projects from home, and if you get stuck, you can post pictures and tag me in it, and I'm happy to answer those questions for free. Is that Gumby in your tool chest? I know, random. Yes, it is Gumby in my tool chest. It's a really old toy, and I love it very much. That sounds like misuse of an air compressor. Yeah, I would love to know how that happened. I've never heard. I'm sure they can explode. It's like highly pressurized air in a big-ass tank. I'd love to learn how that would happen and how I can avoid it. So thanks for bringing that up, because that's definitely something that I'm going to be researching. Listen, it's 2:30 and I'm not supposed to be here anymore, and I have to clean this room up before I leave so the next class can come in. My name is Kim. I teach upholstery workshops here at my local makerspace. I don't have my own shop. I can't do this in my house because my house isn't big enough. In the summertime, I tend to do this outside, and I even have a space inside my storage unit where I can do quick things if I need to. But I don't have space to do this at home, and most people don't, but that doesn't mean that you can't do this. I started learning this, teaching myself from home. I did it from my living room. I ended up starting a business out of it, and I had my own 11,000 square foot shop that I did this and metalwork and woodwork out of, and I prefer to do this out of a makerspace. Overhead is super expensive in a shop, and if you're just starting a business, especially if you're brand new and inexperienced at running a business, overhead sucks away all your profit. If you can find a makerspace like this, like the one I have here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, to do your projects out of, you have access to the tools, you have access to the space, and you have access to the expertise of the staff that work there to help you work through your projects. You save a lot of money in overhead, and you get a better head start on doing that. Here, I have access to a CNC router, full-fledged wood shop, CNC plasma cutters, textile studio, laser cutters, 3D printers, anything I could possibly use. I can reserve this room to teach my classes or to have presentations or even just to work on my projects in peace. A lot of maker spaces are run in the same way. So if you guys have a maker space near you, I suggest you get in there if you don't have room to do this at home. Thank you, Sue, so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I've got to get off of here because I got to clean this room up before I pick up my kids. But I really appreciate you joining. I am so happy that we got over 100,000 likes. I can't wait to see what that looks like when I turn this off and I can see the engagement that's been happening in my page while you guys are here. I appreciate you. And if you want to take some classes, you can take them in person, or you can take my virtual upholstery workshops where I work with you over the workshop virtually to work on your projects. I'm happy you guys were here. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Follow me on all the things and you'll get information. This live replay will be available on YouTube within a day or so, so you'll be able to catch it if you didn't catch the whole thing there. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks again. Bye.